give up forever to touch you, 'cause I know that you feel me somehow. You're the closest to heaven that I'll ever be, and I don't wanna go home right now. And all I can taste is this moment, and all I can breathe is your life. When sooner or later it's over, I just don't wanna miss you tonight. And I don't want the world to see me, 'cause I don't think that they'd understand. When everything's meant to be broken, I just want you to know who I am. And you can't fight the tears that ain't coming, or the moment of truth in your lies. When everything feels like the movies, yeah, you bleed just to know you're alive. And I don't want the world to see me, 'cause I don't think that they'd understand. When everything's made to be broken, I just want you to know who I am.
Long time no see, everybody. The YouTube channel. I will personally do an update video later on, but as you guys can see, I'm alive, I'm well. Got a new cosplay today. This is my surprise for the Friday that is Metrocon. My little girl also has her surprise on as well. I managed to find these outfits for a pretty decent price, actually. No wonder things get used. Back to back to not being used to talking to a camera, as you can tell. Like I said, it's been a weird few years, because I have Metrocon 2020 video and clips, but didn't really put them into perspective either. And then I have Anime to Mexico that went up. The Mexico Comic Expo did not go up because of a lot of Two-Face sneak people. But yeah, let's have fun this Metrocon. I've got a lot of plans to go to panels, and since I'm technically going to be by myself, people I got to ride with are part of the LARP group, so I'll be by myself. So you guys get a lot more footage this time, and not someone judging that I do this for pretty much a living. So yeah, see you later.
We'll be going over pretty much everything that we know. We are your hosts, Astral Pioneer, or Logan, and
Deborah Slay, Debbie!
So, we're both Florida wig stylists. We've been in the cosplay community for a little bit. We'll be going over basically where we are, what we do, and then we'll get into some basics. We'll be going over the materials that you need, all the different techniques you could think of. We encourage questions, but until we get to the very end for open-ended questions, try and keep your questions related to the topic on the slide so we can kind of get through it. At the end, though, we'll be open to any kind of questions. But we definitely want to help you guys get started on wig styling, as it is a very big part of the cosplay community. So don't feel free to ask. No question is dumb, I promise. So, let's start.
So again, I'm Debbie. I go by Deborah Slay on any social media account. This is some of my works. Actually, this is my most recent work. It's the Doma wig, which is lovely, sitting right here. And these are some other wigs that I've done and commissions that I've done. This one personally is mine, but anywho, I'm a licensed cosmetologist and barber in the state of Florida, and I've been doing hair, human hair, for quite a few years, and then I changed to this, doing synthetic hair and wig for cosplay, so that's what I do.
Hi, so I'm Astral Pioneer on Instagram and TikTok. Again, my name's Logan. I've been cosplaying for about two and a half years now, and I started wig styling about a year ago. These are some of my works right here. As you can see, I specialize primarily in very heavy styling using foam and wire. I'm most known for my large ponytails, which you'll see later tonight. You'll see me in Kokushibo from Demon Slayer. Very large ponytail, hard to miss. One of them is right here. So that's why I specialize in that kind of thing. I've done work such as the cookie run wig over here, which is, we'll go into a teasing and making them look very unnatural. I've done pretty simple wigs like the Soma wig from Food Wars, and I've also done recently a Giorno wig all the way in the end, and someone here at Metrocon will be wearing it, which is going to be really awesome to see. Yeah, so I'm a wig stylist and illustrator, and this is what I do, and we'll begin. So let's get started. Want to start off?
Sure. So the first thing that we're going to talk about, these are some of the things that we'll be talking about, like your basic tools, brushes, things that you're going to need that you can find around the house or you can probably buy on Amazon, things like that. We're going to be talking about, so what do we got here? Brushes, combs, okay, hair clips, straighteners, crimpers. I feel like hot tools are probably one of the most important things that you need for styling wigs, because these wigs are synthetic, which means that they're plastic, so they won't react to the way human hair would react to. So you would need to apply heat, and applying heat, what that will do with a synthetic wig, which is plastic, it will bend it and mold it. When you're cooling it, it'll take shape of what you're trying to do. So like these wigs here, they would have to have a lot of heat over and over and over, with the cooling option, getting it straight, whatever it is that you're trying to mold into. The heat and cooling, I think, is your best friend when it comes down to wig styling, for sure. And then we have, you know, your basic combs and brushes. You just need very basic things. You can find them anywhere, beauty supply shops, Walmart, whatever. Clips and hairpins, you're going to need a lot of those when it comes down to doing wig styling, because you're going to have to section a whole lot of times, and that way it'll help you when you're, you know, cutting hair or styling or whatever it is that you're doing. Adhesives, very important, especially if you're doing fake hairlines on wigs. You need to understand what glues do and what certain glues don't do, what works for you best, what doesn't work for you best. You have your 6000s, you have your tacky glues and all of that stuff. Barber scissor sets, you need some good, I mean, you don't need the best scissors, but some hair cutting scissors would be good. You have your blunt cut scissors, which usually come around, you find them different sizes, 6 inches, 5.5 inches, 6.5 inches. Those will do more of your blunt cuts, or you can do some point cutting, which we'll get into all of that, and also some thinning shears or texturizer shears to kind of get rid of all that bulk that you don't need, right? And steamers, that self-explanatory. A steamer, the ones that you use in the house to kind of like, you know, iron your clothes, those you can use on wigs, and what they will do, and we'll talk about that further in, is smoothing out and everything like that. So another tool that you can help you shape and mold. Is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, so with combs and brushes, something that you definitely want to take into account is you don't need anything crazy, but there are specifics that you should be going into. We are going to be talking about two very distinct types of wig styling, such as crimping, which we'll get into, and then basic teasing. With your combs, bristle brush is going to be your best friend, especially the round ones. They're great for combing out once you tease something, and also you need a detangling brush. They look like kind of like a bean shape, a little weird, but it's something good to keep at a con. It's great for detangling, obviously it's in the name. That's going to be your best friend. Hair clips, self-explanatory, the adhesives. One of your most go-to adhesives that you should be looking for is tacky glue, but clear. Don't get anything else other than clear. It does leave some residue if you're not careful, but we'll get into how to avoid that. It is going to be how you're going to get your very cool hairlines and things to stay in place, adding wefts onto your wig. Hot glue can also come in handy. As much as it doesn't seem like it, this is an art form. You can apply all different things from the arts. And yeah, the steamer is, you know, self-explanatory. Move on to the next thing? Alright, so I'll start here. So crimping. What is crimping? This is something that you'll see for on your wig and things like that, where you're going to get that really fluffy texture. If you've looked at anything like that, you'll see each hair has this like kind of squiggle pattern on it. It is basically a way to add volume to your wig without teasing. We'll get into teasing in a minute. But crimping is, you get a crimper. Most of the items, by the way, that we're going to be talking about, you can find on Amazon or any, you know, cheaper location. So don't think that wig styling is a very expensive thing to get into. It's not. It's very affordable. It's just about where to look, and so you're finding the right things. But crimping, you get a crimper. There are certain sets that they sell with different sizes and attachments. It basically looks like a flat iron. And so what you're going to do, what we have here, an example, on one side you have a non-crimped wig. It looks like pretty standard out of the bag, something we all are familiar with when we cosplay. You get a wig in the bag, comes in the hairnet, just like that. It's kind of shiny. Crimping will take away that shine and will give a bit more volume to it, but I will say it is more so something if you're trying to go for that anime look, that animated look, because it's not going to give you that natural look. That's not a bad thing. Again, I mostly crimp, but it is a style choice. As you can see in the center, what the difference is, crimping is going to help with not having your wigs tangle, especially with long flowing wigs. You don't have to crimp it entirely or else it will look like that, because you can make the hair huge, or you can lightly crimp it. It depends on how your temperature and how lightly you're applying, how long you're going to be applying, etc. And as you can see there, it also sort of acts as a straightener in a sense because you're applying the wig. You want to add anything else?
Yeah, so a lot of people, I feel like they have a lot of problems when they're crimping to leave all those crimp marks. A lot of people tend to not like when they do that, and they don't know how to get rid of that maybe. So the lightly crimping would also kind of help. Re-crimping the same section over and over and over and over. Of course, you have to let it cool down, and then you go back. That way it kind of gives you different crimping sections, if that makes, and they start to overlap. And that way it doesn't look like you have a bunch of crimp marks in the wig. Because when you brush it out, it fluffs out and whatever. And then we did talk about the light crimping and the harder crimping, because when you hold it down for so long and then you go to the next section, once you brush that out, it gives it more of a floofy, like we call it the floof in this industry, right? The floof. And it becomes like this big wig, which it's not wrong if you're trying to get a lot of volume on a wig that needs a lot of volume, good thing. But you can, like for this one I think was a Makimo wig from Chainsaw Man, which is more of your standard bang, down, so it wasn't needing a whole lot of craziness with it. But crimping does make styling a lot easier, especially when you're trying to grasp the hair and trying to twist or bend or whatever. Because when they're straight out of the bag, they have kind of this coating a little bit. So it's kind of hard to kind of mess around with it, which is why I would wash a wig beforehand on that. But yeah, crimping is one of the ways to go.
Another thing I do want to add, what is very nice about crimping and getting that anime styling look is that it's very easy to mold in your hand. I know it sounds weird for hair, but basically the way that the fibers are connecting to each other because of the pattern on them, you're able to kind of mold it and shape your spikes slightly, and the steamer will get into that. There is one mistake that I do see a lot with crimping, and it's easy to go against. Do not crimp how you would straighten hair. So for example, wigs are kind of sectioned off. If you ever pulled open a wig, you'll kind of notice that it is sectioned in bands going horizontally, and that's how the hair is sectioned. Never crimp going down like that all the time. You kind of, what you want to do is start at the bottom and lift it up, section it out, and find at least in rows of 3 or 2 in small sections and crimp vertically. So say like my fingers were the crimper or whatever. Instead of going like that, you'd want to start vertically. And what that does is, yeah, you have those very aggressive marks on there, but the thing is, obviously, you let it cool for about 15, 20 seconds. Oh, that's my hair.
Sorry, guys.
It don't like
The TV is talking.
Let me get this started. The point that I'm trying to make about
Could
this.
you elaborate what you mean by crimping vertically?
Okay. It's there.
Okay, so when you look at a wig, right, the wefts are sewn in horizontally, right? And so what a lot of people will do is they'll crimp, if this is the strand of the hair, they'll crimp directly like this, right? Going down parallel to that. But in reality, not reality, but you should want to do it the opposite way. So say that this is the strand, you want to do it vertically instead of horizontally. So you're doing it perpendicular to the wig cap, if that makes sense. So you're grabbing a strand, and you take about maybe 4, I usually take 4 wefts that are sewn in, and I take about maybe 2 finger like width, and then I start crimping it directly perpendicular to the wefts that are sewn in. That way it also doesn't leave as much as the big crimp marks as well. So does that make more sense?
Yeah.
That's what he's talking about, and it helps a great deal.
But when you're doing it vertically, once you're going to brush it out, all those fibers are going to fall on each other, and you're not going to see that pattern. You're going to get that really nice crimping pattern, but you're not going to have that very obvious, like, when you start out crimping, you'll notice it looks like a wavy pattern because you do have to brush it out. That's the thing. Again, crimping is something that does make the wig styling process a little longer, I'll be honest. For anyone that has worked on them, you'll know it's very, like, very rewarding, but you have to sit down for a few hours and do this to do the entire wig. But we'll get into a bit more of an easier starting point next.
So actually, would you guys believe me that this wig is this wig? Can I say that? So back then, this is a wig that's an older wig that I've done, and back in the day I didn't have a crimper, so I'm like, how can I get the same floof effect, right? The floof is what really styles wigs. So I thought to myself, okay, well I know the heat works, right? So without using a crimper, I started out with a basic wig. What I ended up doing is doing a whole lot of back combing on it. So you grab a strand of hair and you start to back comb it and teasing, right? We call it teasing. And you can even hit it with a light hairspray when you start combing back, because when it's that flat, you know, strand, it's kind of harder to go back a little bit. But yeah, you start back combing and teasing. And then you can use a flat iron, or you can even use a blow dryer. But the flat iron, what you can do to it is you start pressing randomly in there. And what you're trying to do essentially is that you're trying to burn the fibers of the wig. So when you're doing that, you can do that a bunch of times. Just make sure that it's everywhere, because then when you brush it out, if you didn't hit every single strand, what's going to happen is that you're going to have some that are frizzy and then some that are like flat like this. So you're probably going to have to do this method a little bit more times. I think it is a little bit more time consuming, you know, instead of having a crimper. But if you don't have a crimper lying around the house, I'm sure mom or sister somebody has a flat iron or a blow dryer. So these are other alternative methods that you can get. You can see the difference here as it started out from the beginning. I hope everybody will see it. As it started from the beginning out of the bag and what it ended up to, and then after cutting and styling and doing all that, it turns into this. So this is an alternative. I think it works fine. Sometimes for certain wigs, I may prefer to do this one. Depends on how I'm feeling, I guess. I think that's it.
So, how to cut your wig. This is something that I really want to address for people starting out. One thing with your hair, don't ever hold the hair and cut straight across. This is going to make it, you cannot spike, you cannot do anything because all of the hair is going to be the exact same length. You're going to have blunt ends. Again, there are certain styles that do require this, but there's a bit more like more nuanced way to go about it. For example, your wig has those flat ends, but it's not going to be something that you're just shearing straight across. There's something called a feathering technique, which, as you can see here, what you're doing, in fact, if you ever go to the barber, you'll notice that your barber does the same thing in the way they're cutting. Now, let's say, again, I'm going to use my finger demonstration again. So, this is your scissors, your strands are coming down. Instead of cutting straight across, you want to hold it at a diagonal angle, and you're putting most of your cutting at the very base of the scissors. And you're going to want to very lightly open and close them. You're not slicing through, but you're very lightly opening and closing them, and you're feathering it as you're going along like that. What you're going to get is a lot of different hairs that are at different lengths in a very small level, and that way you can easily make spikes. Because even on natural human hair, our hair doesn't grow all out at the same length unless you go about altering it yourself. It's feathering, and you're going to have different lengths. It's how natural human hair is able to have wisps and whatnot, because each hair is a different way of going about it. In fact, to alter this, or not to alter this effect, but another way to go about this effect is using thinning scissors. Again, your barber also uses them. You'll notice if you've ever seen scissors that one side looks like a regular scissor, the other looks like a comb. I'm sure everyone's seen that. What that is that it's only cutting in very certain locations along that comb, so that only some of those strands are going to be shorter than the others, and you're going to get a different way of going about this. This is used for if you're just trying to thin out a large bulk of hair. Let's say I'm trying to make a spike, right? I have the right amount of hair to a degree, but it's too heavy, and I can't make that spike do weird defining things. So I'm going to take my thinning scissors and I'm just going to boom, boom. With those, you can do straight across cutting, because it's not cutting straight across. If you get what I'm trying to say, where I can just kind of like shear it across with thinning scissors, because it's not traditional scissors, it's just going to slice everything off, and you're going to get this very unclean looking section. Again, this is something to definitely keep in mind if you're going about wigs. The moment you learn to cut a wig properly, this applies to crimped hair, this applies to uncrimped hair, teased hair, anything. It is going to save your life in doing any kind of styling. Is there anything else you want to do? Yeah, so another technique that you can also use is called point cutting. So what ends up happening is, like you said, if you cut straight across, you have like a blunt cut, right? So all the hair is sitting directly right there. So in order to get this, say you don't have texturizing shears or whatever, what you can do is, if you have the hair that's blunt cut like this, and you just go in there and you slightly close as you're pulling out,
just like that, even just at a small angle, and you just keep going in and out, instead of it being so blunt cut like that, it'll start to kind of have these like rivets in it, like the way you see it in this photo right there. This one I was point cutting on that one there. But it's so important not to cut it the way you would cut probably human hair, because again, human hair grows completely different, you know, in different kinds of variations. But these are wigs, so they have, you know, their wefts are sewn in specifically on how they all fall. So it is extremely important that when you're cutting, I would say even a couple of inches below where you actually want the length to be, just in case, because once you cut it, it's gone. You can't, this is not gonna grow back, so you might have to get a new wig. So always be very, very careful on how much you're cutting, because even if when you're thinning out, if you thin out too much, then you don't have enough hair to play with. But, so, I mean, it's not that hard. I think cutting is probably one of the easiest things to do in my opinion, but.
Another thing that's also really important is that when you are shearing like that, the feathering motion, brush it out, because something I noticed when I first started, especially after crimping, is it off?
No, it's on. No, it's on.
Great. The issue that you're going to have is that you're pulling on it and then shearing, and there's tension. Some of the fibers are going to shoot back up and kind of tangle, and the thing is, when you then make the spike, a bunch of like weird tangled hair in there. Brush it out after you cut, no matter if it's crimped, if it's not crimped. I'm again using a lot of examples with crimping because it's what I tend to do, but this is something that you need to keep in mind. All right, next is color wigs. So this is a wig of mine that I did. This is one of my large ponytail wigs. As you can see, I start out with a very basic color. A lot of the time, if you were to buy a wig, let's say a pre-made wig on Amazon or whatever it might be, and it's multicolor, a lot of what that is different color wefts sewn in. But if you want to do it like this, where I start out styling this ponytail with a burgundy wig, and I want to make it have this like really nice fade in, like a darker root look on the ponytail there, what I use is an airbrush. Now this is something that's a bit further down the line of styling your wigs, so I understand airbrushes can be a bit expensive. They run about $80, $90. I actually got mine recommended from Mikuni.cosplays, I believe. They do a lot of armor, but airbrushes have multiple practical uses. It's basically spray paint without spray painting your wig. By the way, never spray paint your wig, just in case. And also, there's a lot more that goes into airbrushing wigs. So, the way I airbrush wigs is the color is there, but you couldn't tell that there's paint on it. It does make it a bit more matte because I use more matte paint, but because you have to use different types of thinners, something I do recommend, try to avoid using acrylic paint in your airbrush if you do use it. Get airbrush specific paints because of the way that they are. They're a bit lighter per se, they're more water-based, and the thinners also help with attaching to the wig fibers, staying there, keeping it all nice and like not crunchy, I guess you could say. But this is good for if you want to do any kind of design. So for example, you and I have done the same, we both done Domo wigs, if you're familiar with the character from Demon Slayer. Very weird pattern on his head. How do I go about that? It's like drawing on the head. So you get an airbrush and you're basically going to be able to draw that on, and it looks like it's just colored pieces of the hair. Again, with here, I took the wig, did that, and without over blasting it, it's still able to move just fine, and it works. But yeah, get the thinners, get the airbrush exclusive paint. I know it's expensive, but if there's something that you want to do, this is the way to color them. Another way of doing it is using something called grit dye. You can find these in a Joann's. I don't know if Michael sells them.
Here, Michael sells
Yes.
them.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
The
Mine's just
synthetic.
but that's something if you want to do just completely recoloring a wig, right? Let's say you're like, oh man, I need like this color wig, but I only have a white wig and the con's tomorrow, oh no. Grit synthetic dye is going to help out. It is a very simple process where you're going to heat up the water, put it in, dye the wig. You can also do dip dyeing if you want to do an ombre. That's something more so for non-styled wigs because again, if I style a wig like this, like all the spikes, and I put that in water, that wig is gone. So that's another way to go about it. Anything else you want to add for coloring your wigs?
Yeah, so I didn't have an airbrush when I was doing this wig. I still don't have an airbrush because it is rather expensive, but if you can get one, it'll help a great deal. It'll give you a more just nice gradients. It really looks a lot better. The way I colored this specific wig, I ended up getting what's called a water-based marker at Joann Fabrics. It was like $2. And I just ended up basically untwisting it, and there's like the liquid inside, which is the color of the paint or whatever, right? I ended up dipping that in a cup, grabbed a brush, and I just started painting right onto the wig. I mean, it still gives the same character feel, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
For those that really can't afford an airbrush or anything like that, there are other techniques that you can try. Like we talked about, even the Ritmore dyes, which always get the synthetic kinds, because that one, the all-purpose one, doesn't ever say plastic on it, so I would stick with the synthetic kinds. You can also mix colors if you needed to with the synthetics or with the Ritmore dyes and thing too. Those are pretty standard, you know, when you're coloring with Ritmore dyes or you're trying to dye a wig in general. You know, if you have a black wig and you wanted it to be pink, it's not gonna happen with a Ritmore dye because this is, again, plastic. It's not human hair. It's not gonna bleach on it and it, oh my god, I'm level 10 tomorrow morning. Like, that's just not what's gonna happen. So if you're always trying to color wigs, especially if you want, I don't know, like this weird teal, baby blue, whatever, but they don't sell it online or anything, you can just buy a white wig and then you can create your color. You know, the more dye you put into the water, the more color you're gonna have, the more darker it's gonna be, if that makes sense. So that's another thing that you can do. I always like to use water-based stuff. A lot of people like to color with Sharpies. The thing with Sharpies are alcohol-based, so when you do put Sharpie in the hair and then you put hairspray on it, guess what's also in the hairspray? Alcohol. So what's gonna happen when you mix them? You're reactivating that alcohol-based Sharpie, and it's just gonna start dripping, not dripping, but it's gonna start running a little bit. So that's why I stick to water-based things, because the hairspray is gonna be a lot better on it.
All right, take blue.
Yeah, okay. So this is a Zhao wig I made that I'll be wearing tomorrow. This is a different technique that I use. So essentially, again, here we go. We got the tacky clear glue. Again, he did mention earlier, get the clear one, not the other one that's like white, because then it does leave kind of a residue. It's a little bit easier to see. So what I ended up doing is grabbing a few sections of your extensions, whatever it is that you have extra hair. What I would do is I would grab the glue stick and I would go exactly horizontal. Say this is my weft, right? So this is the hair piece that I'm trying to glue together and trying to make a fake hairline. I would go ahead and put glue right at the end here, and then I would grab like that little, it's like a little spatula, you know, and I would go ahead and flatten that out to kind of make it so sticky over here, right? And I actually let this dry overnight. So I made a bunch of those little pieces and I let that dry overnight. And then the way I glued it onto the hairline, actually, I removed the first two wefts of it. So you can kind of expose the hair a little bit. Because if you leave the wefts on there, it kind of gives you a little bump, if that makes sense, right? So you remove the first two wefts and you can get like craft felt sheet foams, not foams, but they're craft sheets. And you kind of cut out a little piece for it and glue it onto the what's going to be revealing underneath the wig, really, which is the cap of the wig. Later on, I did use E6000 glue, which is a bad boy. It's such a good way. It's such a good glue, in my opinion. I love the E6000. It's very powerful. Whatever it is that you're gonna glue onto there, it is not gonna come out. It is more of like a glue that you put it on the side if you want to stick, and what you're sticking it to. Put it on there, leave it for just a few seconds so it gets a little tacky, and then combine it. It will not come off. So that's what I did after these dried. I put the E6000 glue on there and E6000 on the hairline as well, and I started gluing them into place. So this is kind of another technique that I use myself. I'm trying different things and seeing what works better for me, what I like more, what I don't like doing, whatever works faster, whatever it is. But this is a way that you can make a fake hairline. And then obviously always have a little bit more extra hair on the side that you have the glue on, right? Because essentially, on this picture right here, you can see that I'm cutting it to make it kind of look like a zigzag, so it's not straight across or anything like that, to make it look more natural, right? That hair actually used to be really, really long. It would probably come down to here. But it's good to have a little bit of extra hair, that way you can go in and cut it, and it'll give you that kind of zigzag motion when you're going in there at an angle and cutting them like this. So that's just one way to do it. Is there anything else you want to add?
Yeah, so another way about going about different video approaching. You can also use it when it is slightly, a little bit more tacky but not dried. Another way of going about it is if you want to make shapes with it. So something that I would do with the hairline is, there are different ways to approach it, by the way. You could do more shapes, you could do more natural. There are plenty of different ways. That's why we're here, to give different takes on it. For example, when I would do a hairline, what I would do is the feathering motion, I would sort of keep it there. because what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue over that feathered look and then put it on. So again, I make it a bit more, it doesn't look like real hair, but it still has like a bit more of that natural look just for that hairline. Again, that's the way about going about it. You can also do the cutting if you want to get that like really like, oh yeah, this is really like animated looking, whatever. But a way also about going about it is I'll put it when it's still sort of tacky, still sort of wet, and I'll hit it with a blow dryer, and that'll sort of hold it in place, and I'll also put pins in the hair to hold up the arch or something, depending on what I'm doing, and that'll keep it there. Later on, I'll go over glued hairlines, not on the hairline. There are plenty of ways if you're trying to make short wig on the side, or I'm going to definitely talk about ponytail wigs, because I know what you think. All right, making spikes. Oh, wow, that's me. Okay, so making spikes. These are two of my wigs. One is a very simple, kind of like the anime boy wig, as we all like to call it. It's the short, very spiky wig. This is definitely a type of wig that you should try and do in your early days because it is very simple. You're doing repetitive motions between the spikes. It helps you get kind of making spikes. And there aren't too many crazy things like blue hairlines or anything like that. So that was a commission I did. As you can see on the top, it has a very messy, like, thing on it. It looks like a palm tree. In fact, when you're also doing this, something to keep in mind. I was told this by a wig stylist that taught me this. Trust the process, because when you're teasing and doing all that, it looks questionable. So that's how I'm basically going through. That's all crimped and teased hair, so it was a puffy wig. And then I, bit by bit, made every spike. It is tedious, I will say, but it's a great way to start. On the other side is making the giant ponytail. The way I go about this is, so that was, the ponytail, it's not real. What it actually is upholstery foam cut into a certain shape. It looks like people thought I was making a furry tail. I was not. Attached to the back of the head. And so that was a way to get this really huge look. It's about this wide, but what it is it's just wefts glued on. So we use the E6000, as Debbie was talking about, to attach it on there, plus some hot glue. And what I'm doing to make those spikes seem really full, because if I were to just start styling, it would look a little flat. So what I do is I'm taking, okay, so remember how we were talking about how wefts on the wigs come in like sections like that, and they run across? Keep that in mind. So I want to make a spike. I take 4 sections of wefts. I'm now going to lift up the 4th one, the very top one, pin it there, and then all those 3, I'm going to tease it until it looks like an absolute mess. I'm like, this isn't a spike at all. It's a ball of like knotted hair. So I'm going to leave it there, hit it with a blow dryer to heat up the fibers, and then let it cool. Those fibers are now cooled in a way that they're going to be crazy, no matter what, even if you brush it out. So then I'll brush it out, and into a very general look, but then that top layer that I was talking about, now that it's smooth and it was untouched, I laid that across and form it around the spike, and now on the inside of the spike, you've got structure. There's a little bit of engineering in this. And now you have a very stable spike. I can hit it, I can flick it, I wouldn't punch it, but it's pretty stable. It's going to stay in place, and it's not going to move, but it has a very smooth outside. How I do that outside part is I'm going to lay it down over the top, I'm going to hit it with some hairspray, and I'm going to take a comb and comb the hairspray through it, very gently on the very top. I'm not putting the comb in like ripping it out, but I'm very gently combing that so all the hairspray is all in there, and then I hit it with a blow dryer on low. Make sure you're using your blow dryers on low, unless there's like a particular reason to use it on high, or else you're going to blow your hair away. So dry it there, and they'll hit it with a steamer, which we'll get into soon. But that's how you're basically going to go about spikes, is a lot of teasing. Even if you're crimping, you're going to need to tease for spikes, especially spikes that go straight up. They are a pain, but teasing it, sometimes when we tease it there, we'll hit it with some hairspray while it looks like a knotted mess, let it dry, and then comb it out, and you're basically going to have hair. Usually it would look like a little strand of hair. Now it is a giant ball that I can form into different spikes and weird shapes. Anything else you want to add?
Well, I was going to say, if there's anything else that I did want to add, this is where the heating and cooling effect comes into your hairstyling. It's going to be doing spikes or curls, whatever it is that you're doing. And you're going to have to do that probably quite a few times until you get it to the shape that you want it. Because you're going to, once you heat it up, it's going to kind of be like a loose noodle. And so you're going to want to keep molding it and molding it and molding it, hitting it with the cooler as you're doing it. And it's just a hell of a lot of hand motions and doing all of that stuff, and that's how you can get these spikes. And then once you get them, like these are really nice and pointy, going back in there and kind of snipping the ends just a little bit, and how you can get those even spikes to be so pointy. You can even use the little glues that you had. There's also a different product from Got2b. We use Got2b hairspray. I use Got2b hairspray.
Yeah, it is the go-to.
It's the go-to. And they also have a spiking gel. I recently kind of stepped into it again. I kind of like using it. Sometimes I don't like using it. It's just, like, I don't know, it depends on the wig. But for the ends of the spikes there, you can use a little bit of glue, that tacky glue, just to kind of do that little motion there, to kind of get them all together, so that way they don't go like that once you're wearing the wigs or anything like that. But yeah.
Yeah, just to say, we'll use the glue to put on the ends of the spike. That way the hair is held in place and is much less likely, especially when transporting the wigs. So for example, I came up from Miami, so I had to transfer some wigs in a box. Putting that E6000 or your tacky glue on the ends of the spikes will keep that spike held together and it will not move. That's pretty much that. All right, moving on. How do you use a steamer? Oh, okay. So, as you see, 3 very different ways to use a steamer. You're probably wondering, what am I looking at? Especially on the weird shaven one. This is not a buzz cut wig, I assure you.
Destroy.
So, I'm going to go from very simple, which is this Muzan wig, right there, and then I'm going to talk about the cookie run one, and then the one at the end. Basically because these are 3 very different ways to use steamer. The Muzan, you're probably wondering, how do you get the weird, really smooth, but the curly nature of it? It's a steamer. Your steamer is your cheat code to making heavily styled wigs, because you can make all kinds of weird shapes. The fibers are going to heat up, and it's going to be really soft. It feels like a wet noodle. It's a little weird. And so, for example, that Muzan spike, it was just a spike at one point. But how did I get it to have that really nice curl? Because what I'll do is I'll hit it with some hairspray, I'll get that, I'm like, oh, look at the spike. And then I'll hit it with a steamer and I can shape it. The whole spike becomes completely malleable. And what I'm doing is, with the steamer, I'm hitting it, putting it down, pulling up my blow dryer on low, and I'm going to hit the spike and slowly dry it back into form. The steamer also activates sometimes the hairspray, which makes it a bit more malleable again. So the hairspray will hold it in these very weird curled positions. That is basically how you're going to do all this, like wavy stuff and all that stuff. Again, it's good for like the anime looking wigs where that's not a natural spike. No one really looks like that. But if you want to get those like really clean looks, the steamer is also going to push down a lot of those flyaways and seal up your hairspray once again. In the middle, the cookie run wig. How I get a wig to look really weird like that? So I approach this wig looking at like a Princess Peach wig, right? Because you have that very bulbous, very unnatural looking hair. Under that is the teasing method, like we talked about, where I'm teasing the crap out of it underneath, I'm laying it over, but to get that really smooth nature, I'm hitting it with the steamer. Because the steamer is basically resetting how the hair is placed on the wig. Your hair naturally, on your wigs that you're going to buy, is made to just go straight down, because it's how the webs are sewn in, that's how it's going to work. But hitting it with the steamer is going to heat that up. It's heating plastic. The one thing you have to remember, these wigs are plastic. And it's heating it up, and I can mold those fibers, and now they'll hold their position a lot better. You can even do this on a wig that you want to make curly, or anything like that, which you'll go into in a second about curly wigs, something like that. And the last one, the buzz cut wig. This is how I make my ponytail wigs. What this is I've crimped it, and I've shaved everything off on the back. It looks weird, because the ponytail wigs like that are not actually pulling hair back at all. It's a lie. What I'm doing there is I'm putting about half a bottle of the tacky glue, because I'm covering up the back of the head, pushing all that hair down, and yeah, it's gonna be bumpy, but I need it smooth, like a globe. So what I'm doing is then taking the steamer and just aggressively steaming the back of it until that back of that wig, like, you can see your reflection. And so that's how it looks like there. And then from there, obviously, I'll put on everything else. But that's another way. You're basically, you can push down the hair. If I'm trying to make a character that has really short sides of the head, like I did with Giorno recently, the hair is just falling like that. I can mold that hair to be pushed all the way back like that. And I'm basically resetting how the hair is set. You want to go into it?
Yeah. Oh, the curling? So,
I don't know, whatever you want to do.
So we did have pictures of curling stuff, but Logan forgot to put them in.
I'm sorry.
So a lot of people sometimes think that if you get a straight wig for some reason, you can't curl it. That's not true. You can curl wigs, actually, the synthetic kind. Again, you just have to use heat and the cooling option to do that. For those of you who might not know what barrel curls are, essentially I like to use that to create more of a lot of curls in the wig. So what you would do is you would get a strand of hair, and I start to roll it within itself. to start creating circles of going around it, around it, around it until you hit the base of the wig. I go ahead and I pin it to the base of the wig, and you can hit it with the blow dryer a little bit, you can hit it with the steamer, and then once it's cooled down, you might do it more than once. Once it's cooled down, you can let go of those pins and it'll come down and it'll be a curl going like this, right? So there's different kind of curling. You have the barrel curls, you have pin curls, and the pin curl is you roll it and you attach it flat onto the head, and then you let that go, and it kind of gives you more, I think it kind of gives you more of a finger wig kind of look to it. I do a lot of pompadour wigs, so what I do with that is I grab like a fish, is it a fish comb? It's like a comb that has a little backing to it, if that makes sense, with nothing on it. And I usually grab a strand of hair and I put it around like this, if that makes sense. I grab a flat iron, I go ahead and squeeze it right through, let it cool, and when I go ahead and pull the comb out, it'll be much of a tighter curl. Because when you brush that out, it's going to give you more kind of an afro look, it's going to look very poofy. And that would be perfect if you're trying to do more of like the pompadours and stuff like that. That's another thing that you can do, but it is possible to curl wigs that are straight.
So some extras.
So these are some like little tips here and there that we're gonna give to you guys, because these are some easy early on mistakes that you can make. One of the things that I always think of is wrap your canvas head right here, and notice how it's a canvas head and it's not one of those foam heads that you see all the time. Now the reason being is that those foam heads, usually the female ones, are a whole lot smaller than an actual human head. Our heads are around probably 22 inches. Most wigs come in about 23 inches or so. But they're really, really small. So when you're styling a wig on top of those foam heads, and then you put it onto your head, it looks lopsided or it doesn't look right. It doesn't fit the same. But when you're styling it on a wig head like this one is a 22-inch canvas head. This one will be able to help you and look it more realistic. If I style it on there and I put it on my head, it should look the exact same if my head is 22 inches of a circumference around. Also, wrapping it up helps a great deal, especially when you're using a whole lot of hairspray, because if you're going to leave a whole lot of hairspray, it's going to start getting a little tacky, a little dirty, things like that onto the canvas head that you got, especially if you're coloring it. The canvas is just going to get a little dirty is all. So this is just like some neat, little ways to keep it clean and everything like that. But I highly advise always to wrap it around and get yourself a canvas head. You can find them on Amazon, at the beauty shop, anything like that. But those are really helpful and they're going to help you guys a whole lot.
So this is about ponytail wigs, at least more the heavily styled ones. So in the center what we have here is a demonstration of how I get a different type of hairline on the back of the head. So what I'm doing here is the ends are actually soft. That way they can move around. If I'm moving my head around, I need that to move. What I'm doing is I'm laying the hair across, but as you can see, there is a line of glue, but not at the very end of the wig. What I'm doing is I'm putting the hair there, I'm putting some glue on the shaved head, and then I'm placing my weft, and then I'm going with the tie glue and putting little dots across that little line. That's going to hold it in place without having any glue at the end. On the end, that's basically structural support. The one thing is, if you're getting the heavily styled wigs, remember, not every wig is just hair. For example here, I used metal bands, I used PVC pipe, I used foam, contact cement, and there's all kinds of things in there. That's basically structural support. Again, there are small bits of engineering that go into heavily styled wigs. It's never going to be just hair. So if you do see something like that online, remember, do your research, because again, I was at that one point where I'm like, it's just hair. There's no way it defies logic. I mean, of course it defies logic. There's foam and stuff in there. There are ways to use EVA foam. There are ways to use wire, wrap that in tape, like clear tape, and then using batting foam, which is this thin sheet, and once you hit it with a heat gun, it just shrinks, and you create this very smooth base that you can glue on wefts. So a lot of times you see these really big pieces on these really high-end wigs. A lot of the time they're hollowed, or there's foam underneath, because again, if I were to put that much hair, your head's going the other way. Moving on though, so again, we're going to go into some questions.
Do you guys have any questions at all for us today? Yor, what's up?
The steamer, what is that? Like the steamer is just for the clothes?
So yeah, so a steamer is actually to steam your clothes. So if you have wrinkles in your clothes, a lot of people will use steamers to kind of iron it. But it's another source of heat that we'll use for wigs, which is why we use. What's that? I'm sorry?
We can use that down the wig?
Yeah, you can. Yeah. It's actually the steamers also help with smoothing things out. You know what I'm saying? So say you have like a curly wig or whatever, and you need it straight, and you just don't want to run your flat iron. You can use the steamer as you're brushing, and it'll comb it right out, and it'll be straight. So it's just another form of heat as well. And it's really useful when you're using wigs and then you're trying to style it, even when you're doing your spikes or whatever, like you're trying to mold them. It gets them a lot smoother and cleaner so you don't have those like flyaways. I think that's something that a lot of people have troubles with, is like those flyaways that just like go like this. That'll help to put it right back together. And like Logan said, it does reactivate sometimes your the hairspray that you're using. So once you hit it with the steamer and you put it right back, it should go back right into place. Any other questions, you guys?
Good websites to buy wigs? Oh my god, yes. So, Epic Cosplay Wigs is my favorite go-to. This is basically, I'm a little biased. I'm not sponsored, I wish. They are your go-to. They have a bit more expensive wigs. I know that is very tempting when Amazon, again, if you have the funds, there's nothing wrong if you do buy off Amazon or things like that. But if you are looking, if you have the money, Epic Cosplay Wigs has some pretty affordable stuff. They also have a really nice point system, by the way, so the more you're going to get from there, you get some points to buy back. Again, I'm not sponsored, but I really love it. Epic Cosplay is going to be your go-to. They have all different kinds of colors, styles. Sometimes wigs will come with different styles. The wefts are placed differently for what you're trying to do. And sometimes they do have licensed character wigs, so it does help as starting base. I know Arda Wigs is also very popular. They have very expensive.
It's a little more expensive.
Yeah. I will be honest though, with Arda, a big issue that they do happen to have is that the fibers are very thin, so they're better for more natural type wigs. Epic Cosplay is definitely suited more for the crimping. The one thing is, I do want to point out something when people are buying pre-made Amazon wigs or cosplay wigs, something to note is that a lot of these product photos are styled in advance. Please be advised of that. So when you're getting it, you are going to have to style it a bit more. They do come in a bag, things like that. But again, those are definitely my recommendations.
Any more questions, you guys? Yeah, what's up?
I have like two-part question.
Yeah, what's up?
One is you were talking about like heat and cold. Are you talking about like using the cold setting on head or just waiting until it's cool?
No, you can use the cool setting on there. Like sometimes, like if I'm doing like curls and stuff like that, sometimes I'll just let the wig sit there for a little bit. But you can, yes, most definitely, like on your blow dryer, there's like a cool setting on it. Hit it with that.
And then the second part, as far as I have a huge head, I have a 24-inch head.
Gotcha.
Wigs do not fit 9 times out of 10. Any tips, suggestions?
Oh, yeah. So what I do is when I do commissions, for example, I always ask, hey, what's the circumference of your head? I know it sounds weird, but
measure it around.
Yeah,
I'm like 24, it might actually be larger.
But yeah, so basically what you want to do is, especially with lace fronts, right? What you want to do is you can buy with those canvas heads because they're reusable. They come in different sizes. They come up to 24. You know, it's not a big deal. You get it. You get T-pins, which a lot of times come with wigs, and you're basically going to stretch that wig all the way out, and you want to pin it in the corners, like the back corners down here in the nape of the neck. You want to do it here, and you're going to let it sit, like literally like a few days, and that wig will stretch out a lot, and it's going to be a lot different. A lot of the times when you get a wig out of the bag, it is not going to be fitting you. Like this applies to a lot of people, at least me.
Another thing you can do that I can think of is, say you buy a wig or whatever, and it's a little too tight. Sometimes you can cut the snippets on the sides here, and you can add an extra, 2 inches or whatever on both sides if you needed to, and kind of sew it back in. Kind of like a, I don't know, you can get a ribbon or another elastic band, if that makes sense. More elastic band makes more sense. And you can snip both sides on both sides, and you can add another extra inch here, another extra inch there, kind of sew it together, whatever it is that doesn't fit. But that's also another alternative that you can probably do with a larger head that you need. What's up? Yeah, there you go. Did that answer your questions at all? No. What's up?
This wig used to be really
Yeah.
over the years because I'm worried I may have damaged the straight edge by pressure. What since I was like modern now, so any way to possibly fix that.
Straight hair.
I can use a straight edge.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like what you have pretty much there is like a very long process teasing, kind of. So pretty much hitting it with a straight hair. You're gonna,
I use like this I use like this type of brush. And I didn't know if this was a good type of brush to use, or because this is an art wig, and they recommended you start using comb, but that takes forever and it's really hard. So
Don't use a comb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I
The bristle brush?
I got this. I think I was from and I just was afraid that I was going to do it. So that's why
Use
I
a
didn't
hair
know
straightener.
a straightener I can use it. I wasn't sure if a sandwich would a straightener would help.
Oh no,
That's-
especially art and
Yeah, that's another thing. There's another thing that this brought up, a really good point. Certain wigs, especially when they come from like Amazon and different websites, make sure that the wig, especially if you're going to be using, hot tools, they're able to resist high temperatures. That's another thing that we forgot to probably mention, because when they cannot withstand those high temperatures, you're just gonna melt those fibers right off. It'll be like cotton candy coming right out. So make sure they can withstand at least like 300 degrees of heat. Yeah, so it's fixable. Every wig I feel like is almost fixable.
Yeah.
Most of the
I
time.
had a different wig and it got to the point where the strands were just so fuzzy and I was
Yeah.
like, I don't think this is good. And I still have it.
You can fix it.
But,
It's
and
fixable.
Yeah.
my question, you mentioned this got to be styling hairspray. When I do spikes, I use this got to be styling gel.
Yes, yeah.
And what I've done to make the spikes, if I want to kind of stick up, I don't know if this would be helpful. I have a styrofoam wig and I put 2 pins in the neck and I get like an elastic cord or something with hooks on it and I hang it over a shower bar in my bathroom and gravity holds in place and they dry overnight.
I know what you're
That's
talking about.
something that would be,
So with the spice,
that's what
the blow dryer is definitely the way to go to speed up the process. If you want to make a wig, like I've seen people do this, like,
So I think we're done here. They're kicking us out, you guys. This is terrible.
All right.
But Logan and I are still here.
Some ideas.
Okay, but at the very end, we will, at the very end, we're going to take the last few questions, and we'll announce it ahead of time.
Wait, you're making, you have to do at least a little Q&A to say that we did it? Okay.
Oh, Felicia's here.
Welcome to Metrocon 2022. This is what is it? Anime voice actors unplugged. Guitar riff. Can someone do a cool guitar? Yeah.
Hear me from friends. My brother has.
This was gonna be an all-girl panel, but then I showed up and I was like, I can play a girl. I can do it. I can do it if I want. I can do what I want. My name's Rico Fajardo. How's it going, y'all? You guys have it ready for the unplugged panel?
Yeah.
She's gyrating.
Oh, God.
I don't know what that means.
Sorry.
Pulling down A, are you about to? Don't fly off the stage. Hi, my name's Rico Fajardo. You might recognize my voice from things like My Hero Academia. Right? Yeah! I played Miriam Togata, Taishu Oki, and Dr. Stone. Benny Maru. And that time I got reincarnated as a slime. Many a show.
Last you can.
I am Lucy Christian, also many a show. Yes, Ochako, I see one right over there. Nami, I see some pirates here.
Yeah,
Luffy's, Honey, Oran High School Host Club. Medusa's the leader. There's a little show, new, kind of still sort of new, called Made in Abyss.
Yeah.
And I'm best robot boy, Reg. So yes, Reg.
I thought it was Greg. I thought that was a cool name.
Reg.
Yes,
He's
the
great.
anime character.
And this is Tia. Hi, everybody. I talk for a living. My name is Tia Ballard. I am also a voice actor. I play 02, Darling in the Franxx. I play Carrot in One Piece. Shuna and reincarnated as a slime that time.
That's
That time. You know one. You know the time.
You know.
And some others. I don't remember. Oh, Happy and Fairy Tale. And also some others. But to my left,
Hi, everybody. I'm Felicia Angel. You might know me as Mona Magistus in Ancient Empire. Emmy Yusa in The Devil is a Part-Timer. This like audience voting on how popular shows are. Perona in One Piece. The Supreme Guy of Time in Dragon Ball Xenoverse. And then also very many other things that we can all use the computers in our pockets to find and go like, oh, I didn't know she did that, but I did. It was me the whole time.
Not great.
That's what I did.
Okay, cool. I'm Cliff Chapin, and I voice Bakugo. I'm Megan Shipman. Anya.
Yes! Peanuts!
Peanuts! Super oishi peanuts only, please. La Brava, My Hero Academia. The Sasha, Attack on Titan Final Season. My Aries, Nine Skate Zero. All kinds of stuff. Again, Google is your best friend because half the things I don't even remember. So, yeah.
Hi, I'm Natalie. I voice Yor in Spy Family. You can also hear me as Irene Adler and James Bond in Marguerite the Patriot, and also Riona in Full Dive.
Also, okay, look, if any of you are readers out there, little Miss Natalie, she's also in the audiobooks. Was Nesta in A Court of Thorns and Roses. If any of you read it.
Yeah, they do.
Say it. You can always say it. It's not anime, but it counts.
That's true. I should probably add
It counts. Counts to me.
it counts.
Sorry, I just realized. Oh no, you took your head off Hollow Knight. Oh man, they finally announced Silksong, you guys. Anyway, sorry. I just had a moment there. I was like, yeah, that's my
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Guys, this is really exciting. I've never had this specific group of friendos here. Typically, I think we only have about like 50 minutes for this thing, which is always a little bit of a bummer because I'm sure there's a lot of questions burning in your mind, which I'm happy to run over to you and field those questions. Additionally, I feel like we should do that first because I just wanted to play games with you guys. If that's cool, if not, whatever. But I'll do this first. Is that okay if I ask for questions to see if anyone wants a question? Does anyone, after learning who we are, have a question in their mind? Oh, there are some. Okay, here we go.
Run!
I'm going. I was like, my legs, they hardly work. Hi, what's your name?
Clover,
Clover, hi, what's your question?
have you ever cried like while recording like an anime or a video game?
There's no crying in anime.
All the time.
Anime or video game, have you ever cried?
Like basically every time, honestly. Waterworks, I'm a weeping willow. If I feel something deeply, I will show it that way. So there's been a ton. Probably one of my favorites was the end of a show called The Rolling Girls, which is a beautiful girls' road trip, coming-of-age adventure. And Cliff Chapin was assistant directing on that. We got to the final. Such a great job. Thank you. You're just a true professional. But the final, the end of the show came as this beautiful montage of my characters like running to catch up with her friends and like they're shooting stars in the sky, and I just lost it. I was like ugly crying, just going like, oh God, oh my God, is it really over? And he filmed me.
Sorry.
He's like, I never saw it. I was like, no, I was in the booth. You weren't supposed to look. Yeah, you see my feelings.
Yes. Enthusiasm. Yes. The first time I ever ugly cried was there was a show that was my first favorite show called Princess Tutu. And there's video on the internet of me crying at the end, like ugly crying.
Oh, it's so hard when you find a show and a character that resonate like that, and you realize you have to leave them, and you may never get to revisit them in this way again.
Yes.
It's like a beautiful mandala of an experience. Like it's just sort of washed away at the end, and you've done all you can.
And for me, like I haven't like ugly cried. I haven't ugly cried anything, but I got really choked up at the end of New Game because Cliff didn't tell me. Cliff also directed that. He's such a jerk. Just kidding. We do like each other. It's fine. But
he didn't tell me how it was going to end, which I didn't really want to know anyways. And it's really like slice of lifey, like throughout all the way through, and then no spoilers, but at the end, like something big happens with like another character, and it's like really moving. And I was really mad. I was like mad and also like emotional, and also that was like one of those characters that I was voicing Alba, and I was really relating to her. There's a lot of things about her that I related to, so it was just like really like. That was like the one time I actually got a little, like, for realsies choked up, and not like acting. I mean, weirdly enough for me, it hasn't been any of my roles yet. I actually work as an engineer though, and I've recorded a number of anime, and for me it's honestly been 2 of the shows I recorded for that I got choked up at the end of. And actually, there's some that you guys have worked on, like Arte. I think.
Arte, I knew you were gonna.
I would say, and Arte. I think we were all kind of. That was a really hard. I loved working on it. That's one of the ones I wish for a season 2 for the most. I love that show so much. Felicia did amazing as Loki. And the other one is another slice of life romance called Adachi and Shimamura, and Megan is Adachi.
You just had a good time. You're just all working on it.
Yeah, but it's always like the last line, because the last line of that one is narration by Amelie, and she plays Shimamura, and the music is just beautiful, and it would be literally her part was the last character we recorded, and that last note was just beautiful, and I was just like, oh god, I really miss this thing so much. So for some reason, my engineering gets me, the acting, I like shut something off, like.
Tea. Oh. Yes. Yes, I have. The latest one I can remember is recording actually One Piece as Carrot. And I can't spoil it, but she has a very soft moment with Sanji, who I think is just like so hot. I've got a thing for blonde anime characters, I guess, because every crush every crush I've ever had on a character, you get to a certain age and you're like, I love you and like a mom. But back in high school, all my crushes just blonde. Anyway,
side note, no spoilers, but I've been, if y'all have been watching the whole Cake Island arc, I also do music directing, and I'm doing the music for that, and it is eating away inside my brain, and I want it to stop. I mean, I enjoy it, but I also, it's like, I can only take so much of little demonic cakes and cupcakes, like just singing something over and over. I can only take so much. I know exactly what you're talking about, though. Yeah, it's a good one.
Oh, good. I'll take one for this side. Let's see. Oh, you put your hand up so fast. Oh, what's your name?
Rebecca.
Rebecca, what's your question?
I have a quick question for Tia. First of all, I'm a big fan of Kami-sama Kiss, so that would be some ways my husband is, so he's my favorite too, and also happy. So quick question for all of you. What is the struggle you guys face as voice actors?
struggles we
Yeah,
face?
like in the booth or outside of booth.
I told someone earlier, I said just scheduling. Because I mean, we're all contract workers, right? I mean, I think we're all, I don't think any of us are like full-time anything, but like when you always want to be busy because you're contractors, you're like, I need to pay my house bills. But it's, sometimes scheduling is really hectic when things get really busy, and it can be a lot. And you also have to make sure you're not overtaxing yourself with what you're scheduling, so you're not just like destroyed, you know what I mean? So I think it's hard to make sure you're balancing that, because it can feel like, well, I need to do this work, I have to do this every, and it's like, no, you need to like rest and maybe not die. So it's important a little bit.
Maybe. Man, that's a really good one. I think it's kind of similar. It's just the working as a contractor. It's an uncertain life, so making sure that you pay your taxes, save for your retirement, and just making sure that you are adulting so hard because nobody is going to adult for you. So just making sure you've got kind of all of the, like, it is an art, but it's also a business, and you are your own product. So making sure that you are maintaining a high level of integrity in your interactions, making sure that you can pay your rent. It's a lot of those sort of little pieces of minutia that aren't as fun as the times when we get to go in and play pretend and then checks come.
I think too, sort of in addition to that, the trick is I don't do anything else, right? There was a time when I think I'm the oldest up here. There was a time when I had day jobs and I was an actor and I was working to get enough jobs that this could be my career, right? And so kind of the trick when you're us is building a client base of enough work so that when there's, a pandemic, or clients come and go, which is a normal thing that happens. It's not an easy business, but you're okay. You've got enough people in your knapsack that if one client goes away, it does not upset everything and threaten your mortgage payment. You know what I mean? And so that's really the trick. Is like that's the struggle, is creating some sort of stability through diversifying. That's what I've done. Not everybody has done that. Not everybody needs to. Some people have a really great gig, or they're in voice acting and directing and writing and engineering and all of that stuff. But since I'm just an actor, the struggle is getting enough work, right? to be consistent, so that you're not, because this business, if you think about it, it's like this all the time. Infinity. It never is like this. It's always going to be like this through your whole life. So you're just trying to figure out how you can ride all of those dips. That's a trick.
Great question. Someone on this side, perhaps? Go ahead, Stacy. What's your name?
Talia.
Talia, what's your question?
So to the ladies, but also to you, what's the first anime that you guys remember really getting into and enjoying for watching?
First anime you got into. First anime that you got into.
It was Fruits Basket.
Yeah!
I feel like it's such a gimme answer too. It's like, Fruits Basket, and everyone's like, yeah! I feel like I'm cheating, It is a good answer.
Two immediately came to mind because they came into my life around the same time, but one is Gundam Wing.
Yes.
Thank you. Hi. We all know exactly how old we all are. If you just wooed, please, lift with your knees, not your back. Take care of yourself. And the other was Fatal Fury, the motion picture. And then the two movies that I saw from Sunquest. But yeah, those were big for me, and it was the first time I saw animated stories that sort of bridged the gap between the cartoons that I loved and the live action that my parents were watching. And there was just this beautiful in-between of still tackling really hard subjects, but it's appealing because of the animation and what you can do with it.
I think the good answer, and probably the one that looks a little bit better, is Full Metal Alchemist. What's
your real answer? There's a butt attached to that. The real answer is Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yes!
See, look. Be true to your heart now. Let's go. Feel the heart of the cards.
Well.
Oh, I know.
First of all, Guns N' Roses is one of my favorites, but the first, thank you. Oh my gosh. But the first was Shaman King.
Yes.
The Fox Box.
Yes.
That was my first. I tried to do Full Metal Alchemist, but when I got to the episode, I was like, but if you've ever seen Shaman King, there is a 3 foot tall character. Actually 2'7". His name is Manta Oyamata. He's my first husbando. Go to my life journal from my high school. We're still married since October of 2001.
I love it.
Oh yeah.
I love it.
That was saw him, I was like, who's that? It changed my life, and he's basically the Happy the Cat of Sean McCune. I don't know what it was, but to this day, I'm like, yeah. Yeah.
You never forget your first love.
That's true.
You never do. So I'm sure I was exposed to anime before. What I remember, and I don't even know if this is anime. Do you remember the movie Heavy Metal?
Yes!
Okay. So we saw that. I went with my friends in college, again, aging myself. We went and saw that. They had a night at the movie theater, and we went and watched that, and I was like, whoa. Fast forward a number of years later, I was working at the Alley Theater in Houston, Texas on a show. And there's a man named Crispin Freeman in the show with me at the Alley. And in his dressing room, he's watching a show. And I was like, what are you doing? And he goes, I'm watching whatever show he was watching. And I was like, why? And he goes, I'm a voice actor, and I'm kind of a big deal. And I was like, shut up! I'm not even kidding.
Was he watching a show he was in?
Probably.
This dude's so good.
I didn't know anything about. I did not know anything about anything, and I just didn't do anything like a Texan. So I said, well, if I want to watch it, what should I watch? And he goes, you need to start. Just start with Cowboy Bebop.
Yes!
So that is the first thing I sort of really like intentionally watched and was like, oh, okay. And then I found out later, like years later, when I was also in this industry and I saw Crispin at a show, I was like, hello, I am also good. Remember all those years ago? It was so fun.
What about you, Rico?
Oh, what was the question? It was like the first anime?
Yeah.
Man, through high school was a Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Which, like, all I remember is that
I mean, if you haven't watched it by now, like at 12, we're like, you know, Shinji's sitting there and it's a big philosophical thing where it's like, congratulations. I was like, and I just started getting into theater and it blew my little mind. I love that. And then, but the one that I actually identified with, and as I matured as a grown man, I was able to understand why, Ghost in the Shell. Which is a big one for me, and I didn't realize it, but a lot of these cyberpunky shows where, for Major, you know, Ghost in the Shell, you've seen Ghost in the Shell? Yeah. Major is just this, like, you know, beautiful looking, it looks like her shell is a woman, but she has the spirit of like another person inside of her. And growing up, second generation American, like I was born here, my family is not, they immigrated, like being of mixed ethnicity was an interesting thing, because people will tend to tell you what you are in this country if you don't say it. And so having that was a very interesting experience, because Makoto, Major Kusanagi? Kusanagi, Major Kusanagi, I still remember, she comes in the room and you know those guys like, who's this sexy lady, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, we all about to get literally turned inside out by this like incredible fighter, right? But yeah, that was something that was a big thing for me, was like when people look at you and they see one thing, but in actuality you might have a whole other experience within you, and that was captivating to me as a mestizo, as a mixed race person.
You just know that marriage is people who know two good partners.
Cool. Oh, heck yeah. Can I tweet at her? Does she know that? I will find her on the Twitter. No, literally, that whole story changed my channel. But good question. Do we get everyone? Felicia, did you go?
Everybody went. What did I say? What were my answers?
I remember. I was thinking about what's my favorite. And then I went down this thing and when you touched on my name, I was like,
why when I answered? You said Terry Boga.
Terry Burning Knuckle. Yeah, you. My ADD is strong. Hey, what's your name? Steven, what's your question?
What are some of your favorite shows you're currently following that you always try and keep up on as they're going?
Current faves that are happening right now. Yeah? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Okay, currently. Yeah, it's not anime, but I'm super stoked that What We Do in the Shadows is back. Creepy, cute, spooky, funny is like my whole shtick. It's July. This is my ghost sweater.
I'm having to refrain, because the new season is out and me and my husband watch it together, and I'm just like, it is painful for me to not watch it because I want to watch it so bad.
I watched the second episode while I was getting ready today.
Can't wait.
I'm waiting for the boys. So I'm watching with Aaron. Aaron Lisby. You guys know him. There's Alphonse. He's I'm a GP and I hear all these things, but like it's that thing where you're watching a show with a friend and you can't watch it without them, and it's driving me nuts because everyone keeps posting all this stuff online. I'm like, no, don't look at it, don't look at it.
The struggles.
We have a binge day. We're like, all right, cracking knuckles. Here we go. We watch this whole thing. All right.
The struggles though.
Well, this is the first year I had a junior high kiddo, and it was the first year that she came home and said, Mom, everyone is watching Demon Slayer. We have to watch Demon Slayer. So we're watching Demon Slayer in my house right now.
Okay.
We were also watching One Piece, my oldest and I. So we're in the beginning. We're in the very beginning. She has already looked at me once and said, why are you such a bad friend? Like, you don't know Nani.
Well, I mean, I'm excited to watch the new season of Overlord. That's one of the few shows that like I'm in it, but then also I actually have watched all of it so far. Like I've stayed caught up with it, so I'm excited because I do really enjoy it. It's really nice.
I am so excited for New Maiden Abyss. That is one of my very favorite series of all time. I'm so excited and also terrified because it's the Narharte arc and it's going to be nihilism galore. So
that's the wild thing I think is who are manga readers in here? You guys read manga? Like read ahead? Oh,
Rico, that's a really broad question. Setting, right?
Okay, better question. Who reads ahead? Oh, this is insane! Anyway, do you guys ever like read ahead in the shows you're in?
Yeah, I've read all of Spy Family.
Yeah, Spy Family.
Yeah. Why would I not?
The only show I've ever done that for was Gangsta.
Oh, I was your brother in that show.
You were. And that one just was because I fell in love with the show and it was airing weekly and I couldn't wait, so I bought all of the licensed manga and said I was reading ahead for context, but it was for me.
Great question. This side of the room. Oh, way back here. Yeah. What's your name?
Daniel.
Daniel, I love your shampoo shirt. What's your question?
Okay, here we go. It's a little deep. So, as anime voice actors, you're doing adventure fantasy timelines a lot. Well, you know how they say in psychology, if you do something enough times, eventually it starts to stick? So, do you find in real life that your real lives are starting to mirror adventure fantasy timelines because you're anime actors? And two questions. Have you ever dreamt as a character you played?
I'm just gonna quickly jump in and say like something that's bled off into real life for me has been open mouth reacts. So you guys know like in here's a good example. Okay, so I walk. A student walks into the room. He looks at his crush. OM smitten. Felicia. There we go. That's a good example. Or what if, Nemesis walks into the room, locks eyes, and you get a CT growl, Natalie. Yeah. These things, I didn't know I do this, but like every once in a while I'll be like, with friends, it's like colleagues, I'll be like, yeah, and I'm like, that was new? What is that? What does that mean? It's way into my vernacular. And the second question was, do I dream? Wait, do we dream as the character? Yeah. Holy smokes, that's a...
No, but I did have a horrible stress dream, like my first month at Funny, because Colleen Klinkenbeard was amazing and gave me, off of my first audition, she gave me like a solid villain arc character, and I wanted to be impressive so badly to her. And the dream actually had nothing to do with her, but I went to try to get in the building and I couldn't, the door wouldn't open. And Mike McFarlane and Chris Sabat were standing on the other side and they just were like, I don't remember which one, but one of them in this dream said, we just thought you'd be better.
And it's funny because they're two of them. They would never do that.
Mike and I worked together as a directing team for years after that. It was baseless, but it was just my fears manifested and they were like, hey, you know these people you respect? They don't like you. It's terrible. And is my real life like an adventure fantasy? I mean, yeah, sure. I'm always on a journey. I'm a paladin. A bit of a protag. Not to brag.
From Grimgar of Ashes and Illusions, I had a dream, but it wasn't like, it was me, I was in the dream, but the thing was like, it was almost like, I could see the scene. There's a little, sorry spoilers, but there's a character that dies, played by my good buddy, Justin Briner, and he plays Izuku in My Hero, and his voice is like narrating, in this nice, lovely, like, you know, tenor sound. He's just kind of like, yeah, you know, everything's gonna be all right, and I'm like, but it's me, it's Rico's there, so I'm kind of like, what am I doing here? This is weird. But that whole show was a lot of monologuing, so maybe my brain was just giving me an opportunity to like talk, I don't know. It's in my brain. My brain's doing it. I don't know why. Anyway, yeah, it was like a meditative thing for me to be hanging out at this tombstone in my brain.
I definitely think that, especially with pandemic times, like the whole idea of life feeling a little more larger than life or intentional or all that stuff does feel kind of true. And I definitely feel like the last few years have made me think more in terms of like good versus not good. Yeah, I've never dreamed as my character though. That would be a real trip. That would be a real trip. I definitely don't want anybody to be like, boo on you.
I didn't either, to be fair to me.
No, that's terrible. That's terrible.
I haven't dreamed, but I just had a daydream thinking about, I was like, can you imagine if Anya went to Texas Roadhouse?
Oh my God.
And I was like, can you imagine it if she just dives in the barrel of peanuts? And she makes little snow angels on the floor for the peanuts.
Okay.
That's what I just did in my brain while y'all were having this great. Like, that would be really great. So yeah, you know, that's...
What a meme you. I bet she's thinking about other girls.
Peanuts. Anya, like, peeking out from a Texas Roadhouse sign. That's it.
That's your turn. I feel like the closest thing I've come is, you know, when like you're in school and you always dream that you didn't study for the test. Like that. I feel like the updated version of that for me is I'm running late for a session, or like
I forgot I had a session.
Or also too, I think I've had dreams where I also write. So like there's a script due in like 2 hours and I have not started it. And I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to bang that out.
You don't.
No.
It doesn't happen. I don't think there's a worse feeling than the like sinking feeling in my stomach when I get the text going, hey, are you gonna show up? Because it happened recently and I kind of didn't feel bad about it because it was Jeremy and then again, resilient man, he's fine. Resilient man. It's fine. If you don't know Jeremy, he's like a larger than life man that is loud. He wouldn't need a microphone in this room. But again, really busy directing, and I was like getting dinner before I was about to drive up, and I just looked down and it's like them going, hey, so you're like, it's 45 minutes into this session that and I was like, yeah, no, I have a burrito bowl in front of me, and that's not gonna happen. So next week, but it still feels really bad.
I feel like that's not the first time Jeremy's been forsaken for a burrito bowl. And it
I feel bad because in the most recent instances of that happening, like it's always Jeremy with me, and I feel so bad because it always is with Jeremy, and I'm like, it's not intentional. I do not hate you.
Just consistent.
It's just consistency, you know?
Trait to be.
Yeah.
I remember when I was going through a breakup and I started missing sessions like on purpose.
Oh, wow.
I did. I was like, man, fire me, do it.
Rebel.
It burned my life to the ground. I broke up with him, by the way. Don't feel bad. It was really good. It was the best. But yeah, I was like, I wish you would fire me.
Rebel.
Thankfully they did.
Over on this side, perhaps. Come on first. Let's go, Fox. Hey, what's your name? Sorry. Hang on, let me do that on camera. I didn't realize you were filming. Is this thing on? I didn't. What's your name? Leilani, nice to meet you. What is your question?
I wanted to know what's the most memorable or most embarrassing moment you all have had in the booth?
I got locked outside of it.
Man, memorable is hard. There are a lot of different things, and there are whole swaths of shows that like I don't remember a lot from because it's work and you're there every day, but they were very important. But I can say the most embarrassing, I actually talked about this the other day, was I love words, I love to read, I got pretty good vocabulary, and I found out that when you're talking about something being related to something else by a tangent, that is tangentially, but I had been saying in front of God and everyone, oh my God, sorry, help me. Tangentially. There it is. That's right.
Oh my lordy.
And no one corrected me ever.
Tangentially.
You do have an air of confidence about it, so I bet you really sold it. I bet they were like, well, Felicia said it, it must be a real word.
I have one that, I was in a show called Appleseed. I'm Junin and Appleseed, and it was the first time we were doing it, and Aramaki-san was in our studio directing us. So there's the Japanese, and there's the translator, and there's everything is happening, right? And the director, we just started, and it's the scene at the beginning, and she's running, and she goes under a door that's closing, and she pops up and is like, and we did it. And Stephen, the director, is like talking to the translator, and they're all, he goes, okay, so they want you to be like, running faster, you know, and okay. So we do it, and I'm so nervous because the first time the Japanese have been in the studio with me, ever, so I'm freaked out. And I'm like, okay, running faster, go. And I look out when I'm done, and I see no one, because they're all bent over, like laughing. Oh. And I'm going, what is happening? And Stephen is under the table, like this.
Oh no!
Finally, he comes up and he goes, honey, we want you to act like you're running faster. Don't say running faster. And you guys, that is like 101, right? It's like saying, oh, CT gasp, right? Anyway, you should know. I should know. And I was not new. So, but Aramaki-san was back there like,
Disappointed.
I was mortified. Anyway. I've never forgotten it, ever.
But you have like sleep anxiety. It's like the things that circle around your brain. It's like a good old go-to for the brain.
Yeah.
Be
Well,
like,
because then you're like, oh, right. I mean,
Yeah.
who knew you said be like running faster? I was like, oh, I guess they want me to say that. I mean, whatever. We're all professionals. It's fine.
Hey, what's your name?
Wait.
Sorry.
I would like to share my story.
No, it's okay.
Tian is reclaiming her time, Rico.
I've done a lot of cringy things since I was a voice actor. For instance, this is not the story, but for instance, I wanted to be the voice actor with the puppet. No. I love ventriloquist dummies, whatever. Judge me. It's a thing that went back to, it's a story about my grandfather, but everybody thinks they're creepy, so I just roll with it. But I collect them, and at one point when I first started, I wanted to
collect them?
Mm-hmm.
What?
At one point when I first started, I wanted to be the voice actor with the ventriloquist dummy who doesn't do the voice, but he would sit with me at cons, and of course I'd be invited to all the cons, because who wouldn't want to take a picture with Reggie Love, my ventriloquist dummy. So he's got like his own Facebook, which I don't know the password to, but he's like on Facebook, and there's lots of pictures of him with like my bra on his head, and looking up my skirt, and I thought
genital journey.
My favorite character is Triella. She has long blonde pigtails. And my first Funimation audition was with Caitlin Glass, who plays Triella. And I decided I was going to be her best friend. Period. It did not matter what she thought of me. I would be Triella's best friend. And the best way to get a voice actor to be your best friend is if you casual cosplay as their character. Yes. Right?
Oh no.
You know what, I'm sure you know what extensions are.
Yeah. Oh no.
I bought in clip-in extensions, so I could have long, luxurious pigtails. And I casual cosplayed as Triella. And I went in to have my audition, and everything went well, it was fine, except when I was leaving, she was like, oh, by the way, I love your hair. And something about that comment like broke my brain, and I was like, thank you so much. And I bought it. I mean, it's mine, but it's not. But you know what? Let me show you how this works. And like, it was when I was like wagging my 12-inch long blonde pigtail in her freaking face that I realized maybe I screwed up somewhere. She ended up casting me as the nerdy character with long blonde pigtails, so it worked out. And it took a long time for me to y'all, I was taking pictures of her house. Like, her house is really pretty. This is Triella's bathroom. This is where Triella, if she had a cat, this is where a cat would, this is her litter box. Like, I was crazy. I love that about you. Oh my God. Yes. See, there's hope for everyone. I love that because it's so, like, whenever I'm like, no, really, I'm just one of you. I just somehow managed to get to sit on this side of the table. I think that is probably the best story to ever prove. Like, no, no.
That was worth it. Super. Thanks to you.
I sacrificed it all for you.
I did it for you. Is it okay if we take one?
Yeah,
take
go
another
ahead.
question?
Yeah, no, you don't want to.
It's coming.
You don't really have.
Oh Lord, it's coming. We only got like a little bit of time left, you guys.
It's a life of virtue. There's like
well, it's probably been, I just have to tell Jeremy and I'm missing another session.
Excellent. Hey, what's your name?
Hi, my name is Ginga. By the way, Yu-Gi-Oh! Yes, based. Thank you so much. My question is, what was your first experience in the booth like? Like, did you get nervous, or you're like I need some tips because I'm starting to make my demo reel and I'm like freaking out, like years in advance.
Oh. It's really, I will say, like the first time, because again, I feel like it's weird. There's like different, I don't want to say like levels, but there's different like, I feel like gens, like Pokemon, you know what I mean? It's all Pokemon. Lucy, you're Gen 1.
It's true. Yeah.
But like, you know, there's different, and so now we're getting to this point where, and I was in that point, I feel like, where, you know, I came in and I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna get to work with everyone I've listened to, essentially. And it's really nerve-wracking. And I remember going in for like my open audition, which is not like for a show, it's just for them to be like, can you do the thing and do it okay? Maybe good. And I just remember sitting there thinking to myself, okay, Megan, this is it. This is your one shot. Don't you dare make a fool out of yourself. So like in my brain, while I'm sitting on this couch reading these characters, and I'm like talking to myself, you know, like, so I'm like, okay, I'm here. And I'd like look up and I'm like, look at them, I'm like, don't look at them. I was like, don't look at them, don't look. But yeah, so I don't know. It's always surreal. And then I'm like, oh yeah, and then I'm just like, oh, hi Lucy, and then I'm like, Lucy's been in like, so I'm like, or I direct people now, and I'm like, sometimes I just go, I don't need to tell you how to do this. Like just do it. I do not have, just do it. I don't need to tell you. So it's like weird. It is weird, and it doesn't really go.
I don't know, it becomes more normal the more you do it, and it becomes a little less surreal.
Yeah.
But like, it's still cool, because then people you know are in things that you think are cool.
And for me, I do still get nervous, especially if I'm working with a new person. It's just, you kind of are laying yourself bare, and so much of what we do is also who we are. And so it feels like, hi, I'm here, please don't hate who I am as the human. But one of the things that helps me is to first of all remember that everyone in that room is rooting for you.
Yeah.
Everybody wants you to do well, we want to make good art, and we want you to be part of that. And the other thing is having sort of a worry stone of what I know I'm good at. So I can say, okay, you know what, I'm messing up timing today, but I know I have the heart of this character. I know who they are, and nobody can bring my heart to this character like I can. And it just helps center me in something that I know is real and true and mine. So build up confidence in a part of your ability that you can conjure up if everything else is kind of going off the rails.
Yeah, there is a truth in that, because like, even if you go in and you're like, well, I was just like girl number 3, you know, like, but it doesn't matter because the person that is sitting there chose you to do that. So that's the other thing. It's like a piggyback on what you said, is like, they picked you to be in that room. If they wouldn't have gone, well, I don't think she can do it. If they didn't think you could do it, you wouldn't be in the room. So, you know, it's one of those things to keep in mind. And
it's also good to remember that, I remember my first session, and I was not comfortable at all. And I went home and told my roommate that I was bad at that, and they would never have me back. I say that as an encouragement to you. You really don't know. And back then, we had the paper scripts, and it was very weird. I didn't know where to look, and it was awkward. That's where I think there's a real benefit these days. You can take classes and learn a lot of mic technique before you ever get in a situation to be in an audition. But even though I've been in this 20 plus years, I still get nervous. You know, and I love that Megan said that, because so when I, as a person who have done this a long time, get to work with somebody new, I know that I have a reputation to live up to.
No pressure, Lucy. As the nicest, most talented people I have had those exact words strung together to describe you like dozens of times.
Well, I will just say that being that person on this side, I still sit and go, I hope I can do it today, right? I hope I can rise to the occasion and do it. You're always putting yourself out there and risking acting and looking a fool. Every day you do this job. And
it's exciting.
It is exciting.
You can fail.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah. You absolutely can, you know, but that's kind of the gig. That's kind of the gig.
My friends, we have like 2 minutes, so do you want to go for it? I'm just letting you know we have like 2 minutes, so we're going to finish this one, and I'm going to do a super fast, like 60-second lightning round.
Yeah.
Do it.
So please go.
Say, yeah, do it. The more you do it, the more you get more comfortable with it, and you can kind of flip on like actor persona. Like for instance, I just worked on with Blizzard for the first time on World of Warcraft. It was really exciting for me. The whole week I was freaking out. I was like, they rented out a studio for me. It was crazy. I've never done anything that scale before, and I was so nervous. But the instant I got in there and onto the mic, because I had recorded so much, I knew this character archetype. I just practiced so much and had enough time under my belt. It all just went away. I was able to like snap on actor mode, and then afterwards I totally went, oh my god. But you know, during the moment, you can build up to that. It's just practice, practice, practice. Keep doing it. And record in front of your friends too. If you can get used to it in front of your friends, in front of people, it starts to get easier from there.
Just to hop in before we have our lightning round, I do want to say that there is no, I don't think, any difference between this side of the table and that side of the table. If you're a storyteller, you're going to tell stories, even if you're picking up trash on the side of the road. You're going to do it in your way. It's going to be unique, it's going to be fun, and you're going to be bringing something that no one else can bring. We just happened to have this cool job, but before I was a professional voice actor, I was on the phone with my best friend doing Mario roleplaying.
What?
And that's improv. That is improv. So if you're doing like fan art, fan fiction, any of that stuff, keep doing it, because if you're gonna tell stories, you're gonna tell stories.
Please, because if you don't write fan fiction, then I won't have anything to read when I go on these trips and I'm in my hotel room. I need it, okay? Lightning round, like one-word answers.
All right, guys, lightning round.
Do questions with one-word answers. So we can go boom, 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 boom.
Rico, right here in the middle, they've had their.
Oh, I'm coming. Allah. Here we go. Lightning round.
Favorite character archetype to play?
Ooh, archetype.
Sexy heroine.
In World of Warcraft, Horde or Alliance?
Alliance.
I'm not East, but I'm just gonna pick Horde.
Yes.
I don't know.
What's your least favorite character that you play?
Or the Alliance?
Least favorite character?
Or the Horde?
None of them, because they're all my children.
Yeah.
All our children.
For Tia and Felicia, how does it feel that Devil's a Part-Timer finally has a second season?
Yeah!
We're excited, and we know each other now, so it's gonna be even more fun.
Ever been given jobs for characters you've never seen the picture of?
Oh, yes.
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 Hot dog in a bun with condiments. Is it a sandwich? Yes or no?
Yes!
Yes.
No.
Hi, if you guys could work with any other voice actor or coworker again, who would it be?
Tia Ballard.
I see you. That's fine.
Favorite character to play that you've done throughout your entire career?
Nani.
Yeah.
Anya.
Yes.
I really like Nene from, she's so You got it, Pikachu. Pikachu speaking.
Pikachu speaking. More time.
Has anyone compared you to Elon Musk before?
Has anyone compared to me? No. Although you should buy some Muriel coin, like tomorrow.
What do you guys think about all the dub hate today?
Dub hate?
What's up, hey? I don't care about it.
That exists elsewhere. We don't feel any of that. Yeah.
We love dubs. Dubs.
I like spaceships.
Oh my god.
USS Kitty Bat.
If you could make any Pokemon, what would it be?
You can voice a Snorlax.
Any Pokemon?
Any Pokemon.
Voice, if you could voice one.
If you could voice a Pokemon.
The entirety of the Squirtle squad.
Do you think there's an inherently spiritual aspect of anime?
Yes.
Yeah. Right. Let's go here.
Last three.
Go.
Run faster, Rico.
If you could choose any devil fruit, which one would you want?
Which devil fruit?
The coolest one.
I actually think I'd go with Baronas just because I want all the ghosts.
Yeah, oh, I agree. Yeah, I want that one.
Spaghetti monster or Cthulhu?
Cthulhu.
Cthulhu.
One more, last one. No pressure. Right there. Run, Rico, run.
Favorite voice line to finish us off?
Favorite voice line. A show called Magical Shopping Arcade Abanabashi. Little boy named Sashi is peeing off the side of the universe. And he says, man, there's just something so sci-fi about pissing off into space.
You got one, Tia? Fine, we'll finish it off. Favorite line.
Lucy, I'll give you all my fish if you tell that vision I haven't been neutered yet.
I go blank every time this question comes up. I literally cannot think of a single thing I've ever said that was not tangentially.
Tangentially.
Anya at the museum, she goes, Papa, look, I can see her boobies!
Full time.
What are you, a lemming?
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
The dealer stall is open till 8, and we will all be at our tables until 8. We're gonna like go walk there. Of course, we can't teleport.
Maybe latest season, I sang in that, and I sang in Ruby. So I've done those things. Oh, I sang for Wizard of the Coast, Magic the Gathering. They had an album release. So those are the professional things I've done, if I'm not considering the YouTube the professional side of things. But yeah, so At the YouTube panel, I like to kind of just, you know, it's an opportunity for y'all to ask any questions you would have. I know there's a lot of people who are sort of aspiring content creators or professional content creators or just casual hobbyist kind of creators too. So it's just a place for both of us to learn because I don't know everything and frankly, stuff kind of keeps changing all the time. So yeah, this panel is pretty much y'all's to own and create and ask whatever you want. It can be questions about me and personal, or it can be questions about YouTube and content creation as a whole. So the floor is open to y'all. It's a bit of a, you know, we're an intimate group here, so it's not, you can just talk and I'll be able to hear you. And I'll repeat the question for everybody too when it's asked, so don't worry about it. You're gonna make sure we'll all be engaged and hear it too. So, who wants to break the ice? Yes?
How do you maintain your voice?
How do I maintain my voice? That's a great question because I don't know how to maintain my voice. I took vocal lessons for about 4 months, and I've learned outside of my friendships and marriage, I struggle with commitment to things. So like, I stick with things like 4 to 6 months, and then I really fall off. So it was going really well, the teacher was really great, and I was learning things about breathing and preservation and how to hit certain notes well and have it not hurt, you know, and damaging. So how do I keep my voice maintained? Getting a vocal coaching is great, and it doesn't take long for them to get into how to keep your voice well, because that's like super critical. Something I've been doing recently that does make a difference, and I know it's going to sound elementary, warming up, vocal warm-ups, and maybe you already do that, but I didn't. I did not do vocal warm-ups, and I've started doing them like 5 minutes, and all of a sudden everything opens up. It's amazing. It's kind of like, I think of it as though if you go to the gym and you're lifting a weight that you're not there yet for, and you just decide you're just going to go for it, that's like singing something without warming up. So greatly recommend warming up your vocals. That helps a lot, but I'm still learning. And you may very well have your own method too. You know, that's just it's so different. There's so many different ideas and techniques that people use. But for me, warming up, drinking a lot of liquid, I do that a lot. Ask me next year and I'll finally have a good answer. Like I'll finally have one. But thank you for that. What else we got, everybody? What else you thinking?
What got you into music?
What got me into music? I had 2 parents that were musical theater thespians. They loved musical theater. My dad was also a radio DJ. My mother went to college for performance art. So very, very fabulous upbringing. So my mother would always, in the mornings, be singing like, "Oh, what a beautiful morning," even if it wasn't a beautiful morning because it's 6 a.m. and I really don't want to get up, Mom. But yeah, she was singing it. So grew up around a ton of music, all different kinds of music. I grew up in Alabama. And so you'd think that'd be like a ton of country music, but it was being around a family with musical theater was sort of, you know, not cleanses the palate, but opens up a lot of different options. So that really got me into music. Went to 7th grade, and then I met some of my friends I still have today, and they were all like metalheads. So I really got into Nevermore, Metallica, Megadeth, Slipknot, you know, like just this whole array that I was like, what is this world? So, grew up with like Broadway musical theater, and then right around formative, angsty teenage years, metal snuck in. So that's why if you've heard my stuff online, I often have this rock theater kind of vibe, because I can't help but have my upbringing clash together. So that's what got me into music, just growing up around it, and now I love it. Yes, hello.
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
Are you planning on collaborating with Iron Mouse or any of the VTubers or?
Am I planning on collaborating with Iron Mouse or any of the other VTubers? Isn't VTubing crazy? Isn't that so nuts? I've had so many conversations in my house about VTubing as of late. The short answer is yes. There's 3 going on right now, not with just Iron Mouse, but there's 3 going on right now that we're working with multiple VTubers. So it just takes a long time because VTubing is so prolific right now and so big. It's like you're just trying to get in edgewise to like have a conversation, get deadlines set, to get things moving, because everyone's very busy in that space. So I'm very excited because they all sound really great and the ideas are super cool. It's just a matter of time and timing. So yeah, look, be excited for it because it is in production. It's just taking its time. But thank you, thank you.
My second question.
Yes, yes.
What other covers are you planning on doing? Are you doing covers with the band or musicians?
What other covers am I planning on doing? Usually I'm pretty far out ahead, not too terribly. At this point, am I like really far ahead? Because I've been experimenting with scheduling on YouTube, trying to figure out algorithmic decisions. So I haven't been as deep into planning things, but I do have I'm remastering a lot of Disney covers I did back in 2015 and 2016. So I redid Be a Man, I'll Make a Man Out of You. I'm redoing Let It Go, because it was the first video that sort of launched my channel. And what other one? Oh, I redid Unravel from Tokyo Ghoul, so that one's coming out soon. But yeah, a lot of stuff in the works. It never stops. Content creation is almost like a cycle, or what is this, like a windmill? Anything? Yeah. Anyway, thank you for the question. What else y'all got? Yes.
Watching YouTube since I was 6 when it came out.
Right.
It's changed so much.
Oh my gosh,
since the
yes.
early 2000s. So I know it's a very volatile platform, but what has been the one thing that has stayed the most consistent?
Yeah, that's a super thoughtful question. that's really, what's the thing that has stayed most consistent over YouTube's history throughout being really volatile? For a while there, I thought comments were going to just be a thing of the past because they forced everybody, and this is such old news, y'all might not even remember, they forced everyone to make Google Plus accounts, and then it was like, I'm not doing that, I'm not going to make another account that I have to keep up with, and sure enough, comments dropped at that point, but they've gone back up and they're back to normal because everybody made a Google account. So yeah, and then a lot of things changed, a lot of copyrights, a lot of advertising decisions, also the algorithm putting forward long form videos and sometimes super short 1-minute videos. If I'm trying to, I haven't really thought about it a ton. I think the thing that's maybe stayed most consistent throughout YouTube's history, having been on it, because I was there when it came out in 2006. I was on Google Video prior to that too, so I've been doing a lot of video uploading for a long time. I think, this is more conceptual, but I think the innovating is the word I'll use, the constant having to find new entertainment forms, having to innovate your content to keep up with an ever-changing landscape for your audience of what they're looking for. So the thing that's remained constant is change on the platform and having to be willing to be agile and change your content or modify it to fit within the change. Like YouTube Shorts is a big thing now, so how do you work within that? They started really, there's also money to be made from having long-form videos. How do you work with that? There's all these different things. They added cards, and then they added end cards, and change is the inevitable thing. There's actually, I don't think anything that stayed consistent other than you have to be agile. You have to be willing to make changes to your content. And music is in that category too. Not as much as a lot of other people's genres, but music's not untouched from that either. That's a super good question. I'm probably going to go to sleep thinking about that one. So just like, what else did I miss? But thank you, that was a great question. What else y'all got? We're doing great, we're knocking them out, yes?
Is there anything you do specifically as a music content creator on the YouTube platform that is kind of separate and different from any other form of content creation? Like, I don't know, like, for example, if you're gaming, you have to be uploading every day. Or
Yeah, music on YouTube is there anything I do differently on music, with music uploading to YouTube, than I would, say, uploading to other platforms maybe? Or just is different than other genres? What separates music on YouTube from gaming on YouTube or long-form videos on YouTube? I think this is opinion-based. I think that when people come to YouTube for the music, I really think they come for the music. They're really wanting to hear just the music. The other sides of YouTube would be very visual or informational. So it really hinges on the what's the appeal of YouTube music when you upload to YouTube? The music. I think that's the biggest thing that people are there for, but people make music videos all the time and they do really well, and so you're sharing what's hinging the audience on, the music and the visuals. But I think when you upload to YouTube, when you upload music, what separates it from the other ones is it is above 50% about the music. That's why people are there, because I mean, I don't know if y'all listen to music on YouTube, like listen to music on YouTube, but I know for me, I don't really watch the video after the first time. I just have it on my playlist and I hit play and it goes, and then I'm listening to my music like I would any other platform. So it's sort of difficult, now that I'm thinking about the question further, it opens up new thoughts. When you watch a YouTube video, it's very personality driven. They talk about their Patreon, or they talk about their merch, or they talk about upcoming projects. It's really much about their personality. In music, it's about the music. It doesn't necessarily mean you can't include who you are in your music, but it better be framed around the music. Because I used to, back in the day, would release my music, 3-minute song, and then I would talk after the video for about 2.5 minutes about whatever, to show my personality. But I was really kind of, for music on YouTube, I was holding myself back from the thing that was making the money, which is views, which is replays, which is streams, if you want to use that word. So I removed them from my videos. So some people missed it, very small percentage, but the views went up and the replays went up, and that's where more money came in. So music on YouTube, now that I'm thinking about it, it's less about you, inflections that, and it's more about you through the music. But great question. Yeah, that opened up a lot in my head. Sorry if that was long-winded. But yes, what else we got? Yes?
This may be a dumb question because I don't
know. No dumb questions.
Subject.
Teachers told me that, and I couldn't stand it. No dumb questions.
Do you run into any issues with the covers via, like, you know, studios being very protective of their copyright and stuff like that?
Not a ton. I have run into more issues with independent creators than I have with labels and studios. Because I never want to step on anybody's toes. I never want to offend anybody. I understand that what I do as a cover artist, I'm allowed to exist off the legal precedent of derivatives. So I am grateful, and I'm always not trying to bite the hand that feeds me, so to speak. But labels at some point in time realized that copyright striking everybody for uploading their song was not the route to go. It created more bad press and just not good customer relations. And what they also learned is that they can claim those videos because someone is using their copyrighted material and they can make more money and their bottom line matters more to them than is the like, well, that's my art and you can't touch my art. It's about, well, more money? Cool. So I haven't run into too many issues with labels. The one time I ran into an issue with a label was Prince. And Prince's estate is really, really protective of his music. They don't like cover artists, it's not their thing. And that's fine. You can say that with your copyrighted works. You have the right to do that. Most labels, though, are looking at the bottom line and saying, actually, it's a good thing that we allow derivatives because we can just cash a check with it too, you know, if we allow some revenue sharing. So, and then, yeah, I've had some independent creator, some discussions before and just trying to work out how that operates. It's a little bit different, but no, not too much, the short answer.
I was just wondering because a lot of people are really like sketch, like
yes.
if you even have like 4 seconds of someone singing a song.
Oh yeah,
like,
100%. And that's been that way since I've started doing these conventions. People have been scared about copyright. Always. They always are. And there's nothing, quote unquote, on the books, law books, that says you can, like, use a bunch of people's copyright. Like when people make fan works, when using imagery and iconography and characters. Technically, like, you know, maybe not, but there's a kismet relationship that's not written down between the fan creators and the copyright holders, and it's mutually beneficial. So as long as it stays that way and everyone's cool, then there usually isn't any problems.
Yeah.
At least that's what it's
I was curious because you're like an actual person who did almost solely covers.
Sure, yes, very much so. But great question. It's always relevant, and maybe one of these days the answer will really change. But I don't want I don't want the answer to change to that. The answer is you're fine and you're okay and you're going to be okay. Like, go ahead and upload it. You're fine. What else we got? Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay, this is kind of two questions. If your music didn't end up doing as well on YouTube, what would you have done? Or what were you planning to do before you even got into music?
What was I planning on doing before I got into YouTube? Or if YouTube and music didn't happen, what would I be doing? Well, that's what I'm trying to expand. You know, I've done some voice acting projects. I am doing music in video games and some anime. So I'm trying to sort of expand beyond YouTube and what I've done before. But prior to that, I did sports production. I worked in sports. I was the guy underneath the stadium. I was the guy holding the camera. I was the guy with the grip. I was the guy behind the AV boards. I was doing all of it. I've done swimming, I've done tennis, I've done soccer, I've done basketball, I've done baseball, I've done softball, I've done all of it. So, and crazy thing, I love the job. I grew up in a very sports-heavy family, and that's like a fun, like, it's funny to think about because it's like kind of it's like, you know, when you talk to friends, well now it's a bit more common, but back when I was younger, it's like you had to find the people who liked anime amongst everyone else. Now it's far more common. Yeah. But when I'm at an anime convention, I'm like, so who here like cares about sports? I was like, because it's not many people really care. But I do. It's funny. Like if I were to say anything, people would be like, all right, I'm turning off. Like so. But yeah, I would actually probably get back into it because I really loved it. It was very creative. It was very. There's nothing quite like. All right, my little side thing. There's nothing quite like being under the stadium, and it's a football game, and there's this very important call that just happened, and it was a challenge, and it's very affecting on the game, like super affecting. 70,000 people in the stadium. You're the one behind the board, rolling back the tape to hit play to show the 70,000 people the play that just got challenged. And you hit the play button, and you got a little knob that controls the speed of the scene on the big screen for 70,000 people, and you're under the stadium and you're spinning it, and you hear the radio broadcast in your ear, and then you get to the point that shows the challenge, the missed call, whatever it is, and you get there and you click and you stop, and you hear 70,000 people just, no, boo! And you're like, I did that. I just feel so powerful. You're like, all right, cut away camera, and click. You're like, oh, wow. Like, nothing quite like it. I get chill bumps thinking about it because that was me on the board. I had director screaming, I had to broadcast in the right ear. It was dramatic. You could have made an anime out of that moment with different angles if you wanted. Great question, though. Yeah, that's probably what I would go back and do. I loved it. What else we got? What else are we thinking? Yes?
How did you start out your YouTube channel?
How did I start out my YouTube channel? I made a Google video account in 2003. It's worth laughing at. I made a Google account in 2003, and then I made a YouTube account whenever it was opened. I think in late 2005 or 2006.
2006.
And I did Machinima. Is anyone that's video game videos? Yeah. Okay. I did Machinima. The Gears of War. I did Halo. I had a Halo series. I did the whole 9 yards. So I did that. And then music came a little later. I recorded myself singing to Guitar Hero and Rock Band, just with a little handy cam. And I still have some of those videos on my current channel. So yeah, I think being around theater parents, being around growing up with performers made me want to have that like the performer itch, the bug to want to get on stage or be in front of people and say, look at me, this is what I do, I'm important. So like it's just kind of in me, I think, to want that. So yeah, that's how it started. I think being around parents and then it's, the 21st century, and they had a camera and it was like, oh, a camera, cool, I can see myself. So yeah, that's how it started. It was cool. What else we got? Yes?
So what was your reaction when Rooster Teeth called you to do Heroes for Ruby Volume 7?
Yeah. What was my reaction when Rue and I got the call from Rooster Teeth to sing on the animated show Ruby? Super stoked. That's what I was. But also like immediately extremely intimidated because I hadn't at that point done any professional singing, so to speak, for a big IP like that, a big entertainment thing. So I had a phone call with the composer, Jeff, and he's such a down-to-earth guy. He's like an old-school metalhead, so I related to him on that. The 7th grade Caleb's itch was being scratched. But But it was a super hard song. He told me it was a hard song. He's like, I've heard your stuff though, I know you can do it. And the deadline was super tight on recording that song. It was over Christmas. So I remember going to my in-laws' house for Christmas, and we brought my like portable studio, which by the way is just a microphone and the laptop and like a preamp. And then I went into the closet and put up like, you know, freaking blankets and sung a part of it because I needed to get it out and get them to have it go over. I'm like, I'm not gonna miss this opportunity. This is so cool. So it was super cool and it was neat, but it's almost like, it's like you gotta perform, right? Like I can't just be excited and be like, oh my gosh, I get to do it. It's like, yo, bro, you gotta like do well. Like you have to live up to the expectation because you're scouted, right? I didn't audition, I was scouted. They said we want him to do this because we know what he does. And then so now you're just waiting, like when you send off the files at first and you've done it and you're happy with it. You're like just agonizingly waiting to hear back from their team to be like, what do you need to change? Are you firing me right now? Because this is not what you thought. So it's exciting, but once you're in the game and like once you're doing it, I don't know, it's a little bit more focused. It's not as like jubilant as one may think when you start actually doing it because you got to perform. And yeah, I'm cool with performing on stage, but all of a sudden when someone wants something for their project, that's when I get a little like, you know, a little bit anxious about it. But it was dope though. I look back on it now and I think and I'm like, man, I did that. And it sounds cool. And people liked it. Neat. So that's usually what ends up in a little bit of a neat moment. But thank you for the question, man. Yeah. What else we got? Far back here, gray shirt.
Oh, I was going to say, speaking of hard songs, are there any songs out there that just put the terror in you?
Any songs out there that just fill me with terror, like that I would cover-wise? There were songs that I just didn't want to do because they're either super hard or I don't think I do a good job with them. But I've kind of covered them. Like last year, I really made a commitment when I was doing covers on my channel that I was going to try stuff that was ambitious and that I normally wouldn't have done. So I did a ton of collaborations. And I did Bohemian Rhapsody, and that's one I never was going to touch because it's Bohemian Rhapsody, and you're never going to please anybody. But I was like, I got to try it at least. And I have some vocalist friends who are all savants in what they do, so let's bring them on, and they'll cover me up, and it'll be great. So Bohemian Rhapsody was one of them. Hallelujah, I wasn't crazy. I'm not crazy about that song. I think it's been done a time, but I found the right people to make it really cool and different and a unique approach. But yeah, I think Bohemian Rhapsody was probably the one that I was like, I'm not touching this thing. But now that I've done it, I'm like, I'll do any song. Like at this point, nothing scares me. Like that was the mountaintop. So, pardon me. Yeah, I'll do anything. That one scared me to death. Zero to Hero from Hercules. Zero to Hero and the Gospel Truth. That was another one that I was terrified of. So anything gospel is the hardest music on planet Earth. Like gospel and jazz is harder than anything you could imagine vocally. But yeah, those ones are the ones that scare me. Still scary. Can't believe we did them. What else we got? Yes.
So when you did the official music for Streets of New Capenna, I know you did the collab.
Yes.
Did Wizards reach out to you individually? Did you guys decide to do the collab with Wizards?
Yeah, when Wizards of the Coast for Magic the Gathering reached out, they reached out to John asking him to get together a group that could create a cool album for Magic the Gathering, because they're experimenting with original music. They saw the success of Riot Games and KDA and League of Legends and a couple other projects and thought, well, we can do that too. And the albums are really, really cool. So they reached out to him to form something. And it involved me, and in that way I'm really glad I know John, and I'm friends with Jonathan Young, because that was a really cool call to have and discuss, because that's a great experience to have, and put that on the resume, and to be able to expand how I go about things and be directed in a certain way, and rub elbows with Hasbro and what they do. So that was John messaging me, to be more specific, because he's like, hey dude, here's what's going on, are you interested? I was like, yeah, I was interested yesterday, like let's get to it. But it was super cool. I hope they do more of it. Might take a break for a bit, but like, I'm all about it. And I'm also really into Magic the Gathering, so like, that works. I beat Jonathan's way more into it, in the card game, and he wins all the time. He's like super good, but I beat him once, and I have not let him live it down. No, well, thank you. It's worth it. Thank you.
The one win is worth it.
He was so upset he went on Twitter and he talked about everyone appeased Caleb because he finally won. And I was like, I got under his skin, huh? Like, a little bit. I'm not toxic. I'm a really good friend. What else? What other questions we got, everybody? I'm going to try to pick people who haven't asked a question yet. Yes.
When something is topical, like Encanto came out and everyone's doing
Yes.
Bruno covers,
Yes, when
how
it's
do you
topical.
make your particular content stand out?
How do you make your particular content stand out on topical subjects? Like Encanto in this
like
case.
Encanto came out or new anime opening came out.
You have a new anime opening or running up that hill, Stranger Things. How do you stand out? I think the way, oh my gosh, it's just gonna sound so like maybe corny, but like, do what you love. How do you stand out? Be passionate about the thing you do. And I'm relating that to my thing too. So like when I sing covers of topical things, what do I love? Pop punk and pop rock with just a little kiss of metal. And I do that. And plenty of people do that kind of thing. But, you know, I'm not them, and they're not me. And I do it the way I do it. And if you vibe with it, cool. If you don't, that's perfectly fine too. But as long as I'm bringing my spin to it and I'm proud of it, then that's what matters to me ultimately. Obviously, there are trends you can follow, ways you can go about, see what people are looking towards, and you can experiment with your content if you want to. But I've found a niche that works in terms of my style when something topical comes out. Steven Universe was huge for a very long time. And all I did during Steven Universe's music cycle going on was just be really theatrical. Just be extremely theatrical, which, by the way, that's me every day. So I didn't have to change anything. I just was me. I just did my thing, and I got on a camera and did it. So, yeah, I think you stand out by knowing kind of parts about you and how it relates to your content, and making that part lean into that, you know? So, yeah, that's my answer to that one. That's a great question, by the way. That's a super good question. What else? Let's see. Yes, Miguel or Tulio, I forgot the names, but yes.
I don't have a question, I do have a gift because I mixed up the days of your autographs.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, feel free. Yes, they have a gift, by the way. Can I open it later? Do you want me to open it now? Or?
Open it now.
I'll open it now. Is it like, are we cool? Like,
Yeah.
It's cool, yes.
That's my defense for potential shenanigans. Are we cool? Like, cool thing? Cool?
Very cool.
Very cool. There's a vibe I'm getting from you, and I trust it. Boy, howdy.
Glitter ball.
Here we go. Oh, this looks innocuous and not going to hurt me, so we're cool. Let's see here. Pardon me. This is the first time this has happened, by the way. Oh my gosh, it's Christmas. Whoa, wait, yo, this is sick. It's a rubber duck drawn as me, and I'm wearing a Peace, Love, and Metal shirt, and I'm singing to music stand.
Oh, that's adorable.
And it says music stuff. That's awesome. Wow, look at this. It's like an Altoids tent? That's awesome. Dude. Okay, well, thank you very much. That's super cool. He's got the jeans on? Oh, this is awesome. All right. My little buddy's right here right now. That's cool.
You're right.
Never thought about it. The microphone's so, like, really? Okay, great job. Thank you so much. Thank you.
That is so cute.
Of course. All right. What other questions we got? What else we got? Yes.
So, stepping away from your work as a cover artist, you just released your own album of music.
Yes, I did.
How do you feel?
I will be getting that.
What was the question?
How does that make you feel?
How does it make me feel?
Music album.
Great. Reception for it has been mostly positive, and I was really proud of the work, and I want to do more original music. I mean, being a cover artist, you know, you're always going to be tied to the IPs that you're covering or whatever work you're doing. That's just the nature of being a cover artist. That's the nature of creating a derivative. You're always going to answer to like the parent IP. And that's fine. I love doing that. I really do. But there is something particularly satisfying about writing an original song and making original work and having any kind of reception to it. It's amazing that, you know, making an original piece and then, you know, years of a career being built off of covers, and then you release something original and someone writes a really thoughtful comment about it, and you're like, oh, I didn't know that would mean more to me than the past 7 years of everything else I've done. But it was, and it's really special, and it really lit a fire under me, so I've been working on a lot of original music. In fact, I've written original songs for other people. So, and that stuff's in the works right now. So this is a really special moment. And yeah, Phil Sherman, I got a little plug. Thank you for the opportunity. If you want to listen to original music that I've written that isn't a cover, my album is on Spotify and it's called In One Breath. And if you want to check it out, I think it's pretty dope. It's very alternative, kind of different genres. It's actually a combination of my entire career on YouTube of different covers I've done, genres. But yeah, it's really special. And I'm really grateful that I have the opportunity to be able to do that. Thank you for the question. What else we got? Yes, over here. Metrocon shirt.
Everyone always has ways of dealing with negative feedback.
Yes.
How do you feel? How do you deal with negative feedback?
How do I deal with negative feedback? I think I took a personality test recently because those are fun to take. And I think most people would say I'm very calm, I'm very chill. But there was a part of this personality test that was like, I think you're a bit of a challenger. You're a bit of a fighter. And I was like, really? And then I thought about a little bit of how I'm affected sometimes by negative comments. And I do have this like little tiny like sparkle, like little ember that wants to fight, that wants to defend, that wants to push back. And I'm like, oh, that's part of me. But my general disposition that I try to take to all of it is it's like water off a duck's back kind of thing. That's what I try to do. And it just doesn't make you look good to respond to it. It's not that over my years of doing this I haven't had moments of a weakness. I've had issues, it just happens. People say mean things and people don't like you. Like people just don't, like I had a run-in recently and I was like, wow, people just don't like you. Like you've never met them, you never said anything, you've never done anything, but they just like, they hate your guts. They don't like something about you, about the way you are, or, assertions. People put their daily lives and their experiences and they project them onto others, whether you want them to or not, even if it's not associated with you in any way, shape, or form. So negative feedback for me, I just know where my value lies, right? And where my value lies is something that you can't touch. It's something you can't comment on because you truly don't know about it. And I'm very grateful. I have my faith, I have my family, I have my friends, I have a lot of things that people can't touch, and I lean into that. And so when you say something about my voice or you say something about my character, I just don't bother with it. Like there was a TikTok where a worker was getting chewed out by someone awful, and they were like, it's above me, it's above me, it's above me. And they just kept saying that, and I'm like, that's the energy I'm just gonna take to everything. It's like, this is above me. Like, I'm not gonna engage in this conversation because it's above me, So, yeah, that's how I deal with negativity. Know my value lies in better places. What else we got? What other questions we got? Let's see, who have I not asked yet? Yes, far back, glasses. Yes.
Do you have any advice for staying motivated when you're just getting started in content creation?
Any advice for staying motivated when you're just getting started? I started when I was 7, and that's what I did for fun. So I think if it's something you do for fun, like it's a thing that you really enjoy, just do it because it's fun to do. And if you're trying to be analytical with it, like have the right analytics and play the algorithm and things like that, it's just it's like, I had a burp, I have another one coming. There we go. I think you really do have to love what you do, and staying motivated, trying not to pay too much attention to the analytics of it all, because those, even to this day, are still one of the biggest demotivators, even from a position of having made it, as some would say. It's still a demotivator to see numbers shifting and fluctuating, and it's like you want some distance between you and your analytical performance. That's what, and it's even talking about verbiage change, right? Because I have videos that I love, that I've made, covers I've made, performances I've done that I've been so proud of, my original album included, stuff that I'm super, super proud of. But if you were to hand it to like someone who audits a channel, a YouTube channel, or hand it to a manager, they would say that video did horribly, or that didn't do well. But I changed my verbiage, right? I say it didn't perform analytically well. And that's why it's just like a way to frame it. I'll say it 100 times so I believe it. Just because something doesn't perform well or isn't measuring up analytically doesn't actually take away the intrinsic value that you had when you made it, that thing you love. So I think the motivation is trying to keep a distance between you and the things like numbers that can demotivate you, and showing your content to people you know who will listen, pay attention, take the time to appreciate it, tell you what's great about it, tell you what maybe needs some fixing, and that you love the process, that you smile when you're making your videos, and that you're just like, oh, this is so cool, I love this part. Like, that's the thing to keep in front of you, more than the numbers when things aren't going analytically well. But great question, super great question. What else? What else are we doing on time? Yo, we're yippee skippy, like we're doing so great. We're getting to a ton of questions. Yes?
What is your favorite cover you've ever done?
Favorite cover I've ever done. Favorite thing I've ever done. It changes frequently because after this many years, you have well over 100 videos you've done, and that's not including collaborations. The one I go back to frequently, only because it was one of my first that I did, like with a professional instrumentalist, and wrote the lyrics and had a lot of fun with it. And when I think back on it, it reminds me that it doesn't matter about analytics so much, because I remember when I was singing it, and I remember watching it, and I remember playing with it, I was like, this is so killer. It's an anime cover, and I did the song Strike Back from Fairy Tail, the Strike Back opening. And yeah, super cool show. High five for Fairy Tail. But I did the opening for it, and it's such a killer. It's like pop punk, it's rock, it's edgy, it's all the things I loved in 7th and 8th grade, still do to this day. And I wrote the lyrics, and I thought it really connected with what the original lyrics were. And I was working with this wonderful instrumentalist, and they're like still killing it, and they're gassing me up too. They're like, yo, this sounds sick, bro. This is the best cover exists. And I'm out there being like, yo, no one made a better version of this than us. Like, I'm being like real full-chested, like real dumb about it. And then in the bridge of the song, which if you haven't heard it, don't worry about it. In the bridge of the song, it's like a rap section, and it kind of sounds like Paper Cut by Linkin Park. And I was like, I'm just gonna sing Paper Cut by Linkin Park. Forget the lyrics. I'm just singing Linkin Park, because it sounds cool. And I did that. And everyone in the comments was like, yo, did you just drop Paper Cut from Linkin Park in the bridge? And I was like, yeah, I did. What are you gonna do? You're halfway through the video. Well, I already got the CPMs. I already got the CPMs. Like, it's too late. It's done now. Gotcha. I mean, they don't have to replay it, but it's like such a dope cover. I'm like, you're gonna allow me this moment. That's why. But yeah, that one, I don't know. I've been asked that question before, and every now and then another one will come up, but I say Strike Back out of like 10 times been asked. It's like 7 out of 10, always the answer I come back to is Strike Back by Fairy Tail. I'm wearing a Stronger Than You hat. Like, I'm real goofy about it. That's my favorite. Oh my gosh, and I had so much fun in that video. I watch it, I'm like, man, I'm having a great time. Yeah, that was great. I'm sorry, I'm talking in circles on it. What else? Anybody who I've not asked a question or answer from before? Yes?
Alright, so you mentioned loving theater and loving metal a lot.
Yes.
So out of curiosity, have you ever thought of doing any solo or collab work for Repo?
Repo the Genetic Opera? Yeah, all right. Now, I've been asked that before. Repo, it's a funny little brief YouTube talking side spiel that you allow me to go on. I love Repo. I watched Repo. The director of Saw 2, one of my favorite Saws, directed Repo. So I was like all about it, and it was fun, it was goofy, it was like a Rocky Horror kind of vibe. But analytically, it would probably not do that well. And I can want to do Zydrate Anatomy and all the other fun songs on the album, but I have to think about how is this going to perform. And when I'm producing a song, I'm paying an instrumentalist, I'm paying a mixer, I'm paying an artist, I'm taking the time to learn it, to record it, to edit it myself. So I'm having to weigh all those things about the risk and the reward. So am I more poised to do better by covering a niche song, which I love it, by the way, so when I say niche, I'm talking about me, a niche song like Zydrate Anatomy from Repo the Genetic Opera, or should I just cover Running Up That Hill from Stranger Things? Like, it just hope, based on sheer volume of searches, that'll work in my favor, and that's the kind of stuff I think about. Because there's plenty of songs I would like to cover, and if there were droves of people covering Repo or looking up Repo, I'd probably be on it in a heartbeat. And I've been able to cover songs that I didn't think I originally would have been able to because they became relevant. I just didn't expect a song that I loved to come into relevancy. Like, I got on Dear Evan Hansen, the Broadway musical, before it got big. I was really into it. And then it started getting big, it started getting traction. I was like, wait, am I allowed to cover this now? And then I did. The Greatest Showman with Hugh Jackman and Zach, that big thing. I remember having a conversation with my wife, and I was like, yeah, that music's so much fun. It's pretty mainstream, but it's really fun, but no one's gonna go see that movie. Like, no one wants to see Greatest Showman, no one. I'm not gonna be able to cover Other Side. And then I did The Other Side with Jonathan Young, and it's one of our biggest performing videos analytically. So like, every now and then stuff will just come into relevancy, whether you expected it to or not. So I never write anything off the table. Repo's still on the table, it just needs to line up with an analytical goal from where I'm at in my career. But great question, yeah. What else? Who else has not asked a question? And if you have, we're gonna loop back around and start doing repeats. Yes?
I have a couple, if that's okay.
Sure, that's fine, yeah, that's fine.
Let me get my thoughts together. So,
no worries.
And I haven't seen all of your videos. I've seen a fair amount.
I have a lot of videos. If you saw all of my videos, I'd be like, yo, that's a lot of videos.
But I was wondering if you've ever thought of doing a collaboration with either Thomas Sanders or Peter Hollins?
Have I ever thought of doing a collaboration with Peter Hollins or Thomas Sanders? Peter and I have chatted. I was going to say talked and chatted at the same time, and it came out as chalked. Peter and I have chatted before, and it just hasn't happened yet. We've had that conversation. He's worked with Jonathan as well, so it's definitely something I think that's in the future. It just, the timelines haven't lined up. For Thomas Sanders, I've been fortunate enough to have him in very big collabs. So he's in a collaboration for the song Hallelujah, and he's in the collaboration for We Don't Talk About Bruno, and he plays Isabel, and he's wonderful. But I haven't done anything duet with him, and I would love it. I would adore it. I would adore it. I love his voice. I love him. I was tripping out when he agreed. I was like, ah! You know, I was just trying not to like completely scare him away. But yeah, I would love to continue to work with them, continue to work with Thomas, and eventually work with Peter as well, because they're exceptional musicians and great at what they do. So yeah, did you have another one?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about doing anything from Beetlejuice?
Anything from Beetlejuice, the musical, correct?
Yes.
I've been asked to do Say My Name, which is I think the little back and forth with Beetlejuice and the main character. And I have yet to do that one, but I'd probably do that one with like Anna Pantsu, because she's super, super good, and we're pretty good friends. But yes, I definitely want to. I did do a cover of the whole Being Dead thing like 2 years ago, I think. So it's been a minute, but go check that one out, because I love that one. I made it about YouTube. Like I played around with the lyrics, because the actor plays around with them in the show.
Yeah, every show the lyrics.
Yeah, everyone's different, right? It's crazy. But thank you for the question. All right, maybe we can do repeats unless someone has asked before. You were heading out? Well, what you got? What you got?
So, I know because I just watched it. You and Jonathan just did the cover of Running Up That Hill. And I asked Jonathan already a couple nights ago on his Twitch, and he said he's not going to do it. But have you ever considered doing, since it was big with Stranger Things, Master of Puppets from Metallica? Yeah.
I love that song. I love Metallica. I'm surprised John said no, because it's not necessarily my audience, but I love that song. It's just a little lengthy. You know, people love metal music as it relates to turning a song kind of rocky and edgy, but when it comes to like metal music that's like 8.5 minutes, it's like, maybe not. They don't like it as much, but I would consider it. I'm not writing it off the table.
And I wanted to say, it's an honor to talk to you tonight. I actually watched you on Twitch. I bought your signed CD. I'm Stephen Riley on Twitch.
Oh, thank you very much. And yes, very much so. I remember. Thank you so much, dude. I appreciate it. Thank you, dude. All right, what else do we got? I think I got 5 minutes. Like 5-ish? Yeah, 5-ish. Okay, cool. Yes, burgundy shirt? Yeah, with glasses. Yeah, that's just digging into my swatch of colors.
I wanted to ask, I remember, speaking of Anna Pantsu,
yes.
I remember listening to at the beginning of Castaway, she put the outtakes, and I remember you just yelling into the mic, this is so hard.
Yeah.
It made me wonder, what's your creation process like?
It's the creation process of a cover. Usually everybody's voice is different, so, but I'm just, I know my own voice really well. So you're often trying to figure out what vowel to use. That's how far it goes sometimes. Like, am I gonna or am I gonna oh? It's just trying to figure out when to do certain things. And should I drop the whole song down a key? Should I keep it here? Should I bring a collaborative partner on? Should I whisper this part? Should I emote here? Should I sound really sad? A lot of times it's like the finer points of, for me, of what's the theme, the emotion behind the song? Is it appropriate here to be really sad? Or and go deeper than like a base emotion when singing a song, especially when doing musical theater. It's like, yeah, this part's sad, sure, but like maybe think about it a little deeper. Like this part's actually fragile. You know, it makes you think a little bit different. This part isn't just mad, it's furious. It's indignant. Like, yeah, and you think about those and it sort of raises, like, oh, this part of the song, it's like percolating right as it's about to, you know, we're about to burst into the final chorus. So, sort of just listening through a song several times, figuring out the point of the song. What's the emotion behind the song? What's the context of a song? That matters too. Of course, that also depends on how much you care about the process, right? You know, it goes into that. If I'm doing a pop punk cover, I don't know, maybe just be like, where are you? And just that's it. I don't really think too hard about, you know, am I sad here? No, I'm just emo. So that's the process. But yeah, great question. That's the process. Yes.
How do you deal with creative, whenever you have like a burnout, how do you deal with it, and how do you be so consistent?
Sure, right, yeah. How do you deal with burnout, creativity, and how do you come up with ideas during that process? I think you just have to tell someone you care about. That's what I think. I think we, man, I could go on I could get on a soapbox real bad. I don't know why I'm like rubbing up against this mic stand. It's soothing, self-soothing. I could go on a tangent about, I think that we're a little too isolationist in our mentality and a little bit of our beliefs and not, because I get it, trusting people's hard, and I think a lot of people have been burnt, and it makes it hard to want to lean into people and be vulnerable with people, just that we know. But like, when I felt burnt out, the couple times, I haven't felt burnt out much in what I do, the couple times I did, I just called a bud. I just called a friend, and I was like, hey man, it's weird, it's freaking weird. It's weird because you only talk about fun stuff with your friends. You only talk about things that are cool and enjoyable and relaxing. And then you're like, hey dude, I'm gonna cold call you and maybe ruin your evening. I don't know, maybe, we'll see how this goes. But it was willing, but then you gotta think about yourself, like, well, someone called you that was a friend with, and they were like, hey, I'm just needing to be vulnerable for a moment. How would you react? How would you treat your friend? Probably like, yeah, let's talk, like, let's do it, you know? And if you're not in a place, you'd be like, oh my gosh, I need to get to a place so I can, and please, like, continue. You'd be encouraging. So the moment I did and I got burned out, I told him about it, he was like, nah, dude, this is what you're supposed to do. This is what you're supposed to be doing. And I was like, instantly convicted, out of it, and immediately. It's crazy how when you trust someone and they care about you, how they can really help with a lot of that burnout. They can really help with a lot of that demotivation across the board. Sympathy, you know, empathy, sympathizing with you, offering that encouragement means a lot. So if you have those people, find them because they're invaluable. They have no price tag. I think I have time for one more question. One more, and I will go to right here, dead center.
So people have very often talked about like your range, your vocal range being very broad. So maybe even before you started like singing covers, like was there like a lot of times where people just found out about just how high and low you could switch to and just kind of like pushed you forward into this, friends, family, or dorm mates or whatever?
Sure, yeah. There was, when did people find out about my vocal range?
Yeah.
No, I found out about my vocal range by just experimenting and playing around with music I loved and then trying to sing it. And that's how I found out what I couldn't do or what I shouldn't be doing in a lot of cases. So I learned as I went along because they didn't know about it because I didn't know to experiment until the career kind of started happening. So I wasn't like 8 years old and just being like, ah! Like I was just yelling. I was like, whoa, Caleb might be a tenor. You know, no one was actively thinking like that.
You mentioned that you've only had like vocal coach for like 4 months or something.
Yes.
So it's very interesting to hear, because it's like, I think there's even a video out of a vocal coach reacting to you singing Let It Go.
Yeah.
And like being just shocked that you going from low to just...
Well, my vocal coach that I was with for 4 months were like, you are like this was his kindest words, is that you're a diamond that needs to be polished. And I was like, all right. Like I felt I was like someone who's honest with me. But yeah, I did choir growing up a lot. And you know, choir, you're playing your part, and you're playing your role, and you learn how to work with others. So That's my formative years, is doing choir for like a decade. So yeah, get into a choir. If you haven't, get into a choir. Choirs are dope, they're really great. They're good for learning, and you have an immediate director, someone to help you. But thank you guys for the questions. These are extremely thoughtful questions, by the way. I have these all the time, and every now and then you'll get one that's like, I'm gonna go think after this Bible. I'm gonna go have a sandwich and think. And that's like where I'm at with it. So thank you all so much. I'll be around all weekend. I have a concert tomorrow at 5. I'll be singing in the main event room. I'll be wearing another kind of dad-looking outfit. And I have a Disney sing-along on Sunday. And what else? I think that's all I'm doing. So please come out then, and we'll hang out and it'll be dope. So have a good rest of your evening. Everybody be safe. And yeah.
Funny, it's always the people that did you so dirty that think every post you make is about them. Baby, this isn't your show. But you bought the tickets to it, didn't you? Hop, step, and jump, do, do, do. Chips